He might as well take this opportunity to go out to sea and play for a while. Roar! Princess was already beside them. Hearing their conversation, she immediately leaned on the table and pointed at herself. It also wanted to go out to the sea to play. And the other pets also came over. Although the surface area of Mirror Lake was large, they had basically dug all the land that needed to be dug these days. They were also very eager to have the opportunity to go out to sea to play. Chun, is this a treasure map? Fei Lai took out the scroll. Chen Zhao was stunned. That day, he'd been worried that something was wrong with it, and that it would be dangerous for Zhilin. So he'd put the metal objects and scroll on the shelf. He didn't think that he'd avoided Zhilin and let Fei Lai take it. I don't know what it is either. A friend gave it to me. It seems to be a nautical map, Fei Lai said. Should we go out to sea according to it? Okay. Chen Zhao nodded with a bitter smile. Gaia, did you receive the money? Yes, Chen. Thank you. Oh, I plan to go out to sea with Fei Lai in a few days. Help me look after the association. No problem. He'd asked Risfar to help him handle the gold they'd found last time. Risfar's connections were all in Europe, not America. Therefore, he was the most suitable person to handle the gold. Plus, he only took a nominal 5% commission. In the end, the gold was sold for a total of $65 million. According to the agreement between him and Gaia, Gaia received $26 million. No one would complain about having too much money. Gaia was obviously happy to receive the money. Chen Zhao was also happy. After all, $39 million was more than his current net worth. Now Chen Zhao had more than $50 million in his bank. As soon as he hung up, an unfamiliar call came in. Hello, are you Zhao? Mr. Chen? Yes, I am. Who's this? Hello, I'm the account manager of Citibank. My name is Andrews. Liar? Chen Zhao's first reaction was that this was a liar. I'm not interested in investing or buying stocks, Chen Zhao said directly. Mr. Chen, I'm not asking you to invest or buy stocks. I'm the account manager that Citibank specially assigned to you. I'll help you manage your account. Manage my account? How are you going to manage my account? Do I need to give you my password? No need. In fact, as long as you agree on the phone and admit that I'm your account manager, I can help you transfer your cash. I don't need your password. Wait, how do I know that you won't transfer my money away if I agree to be your account manager? Don't worry. Any transfer of funds in your account will be sent to you. If it's not done by you, the bank will communicate and confirm with you manually if it's more than $100,000. This seems to be more troublesome. I don't know why you're here. First of all, because of your cash limit, you can enjoy the highest interest from our bank. Second, if you need to make large purchases, I can negotiate for you. I believe we can get the best benefits for you. Chen Zhao thought about it. Do I need to pay you? I'm your service staff, not your employee, so you don't need to pay me. I still don't understand your main job. Simply put, I'm your personal accountant. Chen Zhao couldn't help but hesitate. He knew his current assets. Houses, villas, cars, and savings in the bank. He didn't really need a personal accountant. Chapter 831. Chen Zhao thought about it. He wasn't sure of the person's identity yet. He couldn't just give the address to the person. I'm planning to go on vacation with my family the day after tomorrow, Chen Zhao said. So I only have tomorrow. Then tomorrow afternoon. Is that okay? Sure. Chen Zhao checked the Citibank branches in Los Angeles. There were quite a few branches, but the headquarters wasn't in Los Angeles. Instead, it was in Irvine, southeast of Los Angeles. Irvine was one of the largest planned urban communities in America. It was also the ultimate goal of most people in Los Angeles. The average family income in Irvine was around $100,000. It was easy to imagine the standard of living and wealth of Irvine. The next day, Chen Zhao drove to Irvine. Irvine had a population of 170,000. Asians made up 30% of the population. Asians with yellow skin and black eyes could be seen everywhere. Chen Zhao drove for an entire hour before reaching Irvine. Suddenly, a white Samoyed appeared on the side of the road. Chen Zhao slammed on the brakes. He almost killed the Samoyed. Scared out of its wits, it stared at the front of the car blankly. Chen Zhao got out of the car in anger. He pulled the dog back and looked around. Just then, a woman in high heels and a ponytail walked over quickly. "Sir, this is my dog." Chen Zhao glanced at the Samoyed and then at the woman. "You know that large dogs have to be leashed on the road, right? You know that I almost pretended to be dead just now, right? Sir, I'm sorry." Facing Chen Zhao's overbearing aura and high-pitched voice, the woman was somewhat submissive. Only then did Chen Zhao return the Samoyed to the woman. "Be careful." After glancing at the woman, Chen Zhao drove away. When he arrived outside the headquarters of the Citibank branch, the building gave Chen Zhao a very bad feeling. Just as he was about to enter, a figure suddenly fell from the sky. She fell a dozen meters away, smashing into pieces on the spot. Chen Zhao frowned. Judging from the corpse, it should be a female employee. Soon, police cars arrived and cordoned off the corpse. Just then, Andrews walked out of the bank and quickly found Chen Zhao. "Mr. Chen, hello. I'm Andrews. This is my name card." Before meeting Chen Zhao, Andrews had already seen Chen Zhao's photo and a lot of information. Of course, Andrews could only obtain superficial information. The professor from UCLA did not understand why this professor from UCLA had such a huge fortune. What was even more strange was that with so much wealth, no one from the tax bureau came to investigate. After confirming Andrews's identity, Chen Zhao followed him to the office. "Mr. Chen, let me explain my duties and responsibilities to you first." Chen Zhao listened to Andrew's explanation in detail, but he might not understand everything. However, Andrews would also take the initiative to explain the key points in more detail. Mainly, "I'm your personal financial butler. Other than helping Mr. Chen manage your bank account, I can also help you with some investments. Forget about financial investments. I don't really trust finance." Chen Zhao thought for a moment. "Oh, can you help me find out the price of land in Mountain Town? Mr. Chen, you want to buy land? I have about 3 hectares of land in Mountain Town, but I hope that my land can be expanded, so I plan to buy the surrounding land." "No problem. I'll help you find out today. Mr. Chen, how much can I buy it for?" "Look at the land area and price first." Back then, Chen Zhao had used $500,000 to buy Mirror Lake and the surrounding area. It was a great deal, but Chen Zhao did not think that he could do it again. Andrews was an experienced financial expert and accountant. After finishing the procedures, Chen Zhao and Andrews sat down and started chatting. "Oh, what's with the woman who jumped off the building?" Chen Zhao asked curiously. "I don't know what happened. She jumped off the building for no reason. It's the second this month. Not a mental illness? Or is it because of some unforeseen circumstances in your family?" "I don't think so." Andrews shook his head. "The female employee just jumped off the building. She's only been here for half a year. She doesn't usually play stocks. I don't know about her family and feelings, but I don't think such a cheerful and optimistic girl would jump off the building because of a family accident." When Chen Zhao entered the building, he felt a pressing energy. Chen Zhao suspected that there were evil spirits in the building, but until now, Chen Zhao had not seen anything supernatural. It was just a feeling. Perhaps it was because it was daytime and normal evil spirits could not appear. Even evil spirits would be much less active. "Mr. Chen, let me walk you out." Chen Zhao nodded. When he walked out with Andrews, there was a sudden commotion. Suddenly there was a loud noise. A woman with a sinister expression was holding a pen and stabbing people everywhere. "Kill you! Kill you! I'm going to kill you!" When the woman saw Chen Zhao and Andrews, she charged at them with the pen. "Don't tell me you dumped this woman?" Chen Zhao teased. "Mr. Chen, let's go. She's crazy." Andrews saw that the woman was clearly delirious. Chen Zhao was also his big client. He did not want Chen Zhao to get hurt here. Chen Zhao reached out and grabbed the woman's wrist. The woman's expression was still hideous. She kept struggling, trying to attack Chen Zhao. With a trace of magic, Chen Zhao poked the woman's forehead lightly. The woman immediately fell to the ground and lost consciousness. The security guard came over and pulled the woman out. "Mr. Chen, this is?" She was not possessed. She had been bewitched. Chen Zhao did not know if it was an evil spirit or evil spirit. It was also possible that a witch had done it. "This building is so unlucky," Chen Zhao said, shaking his head. You should find a spiritualist to disperse the evil aura here. What nonsense are you talking about? A woman's voice came from behind. Chen Zhao turned around and realized that it was the woman he had met on the road today. At the moment, the woman was holding the samyet. It's you. The woman was surprised to see Chen Zhao here. Chen Zhao looked at the woman. If you want to listen, then listen. If not, then forget it. Since it had nothing to do with him, Chen Zhao only reminded her. He did not plan on arguing with the woman until his face turned red. Miss Amira, I think that Mr. Chen is right. Our bank's HQ building is really strange. Last night, the security guard said that he heard a scary sound. Chapter 832. The two accidents that had happened in the bank today gave Amira a headache. The first female employee's suicide had already appeared on the news. The second female employee had gone crazy in the office and attacked a colleague, but Amira had suppressed it. Now the whole bank was talking about some strange things. Some employees secretly said that there was an evil spirit in the bank headquarters. Amira did not believe in such things. But now the situation was getting out of control. Amira's father was a major shareholder of Citibank, which was why she could be the general manager of the LA branch. If she couldn't handle this matter beautifully, it would have a huge impact on her status. Just then, a program appeared on the television in front of Amelia. In the program, a man who claimed to be a spiritualist was talking big. Do you know the abandoned classroom building of UCLA? The school tried to demolish the abandoned school building many times, but they all failed. Every time, the construction workers would die accidentally, and most of the time, they died mysteriously. Later, the school invited me. I discovered that there was a terrifying evil spirit in the abandoned UCLA school building. Then, I started a huge battle with that evil spirit and finally killed it. The host said, Mr. Church, do you have any evidence for what you said? Ordinary people can't see evil spirits. For example, there's a spirit behind you. Of course, you don't have to be afraid. It's a kind old granny. Her gaze is very gentle. She wears a floral dress and holds a walking stick. She should be your guardian spirit. The host cried out in shock. Mr. Churgis, is that true? You said there's an old granny beside me? Yes, of course it's true. That's my grandmother. She passed away the year I graduated from university. She's always been beside me. Amira thought for a moment and picked up a phone. Help me find someone. His name is Church. He claims to be a spiritualist. Feilai, we should go, Chen Zhao said. Feilai was still dragging her feet. Any woman would drag their feet when they went out. As a pregnant woman, Feilai had not touched cosmetics in a long time. However, she still continued to use some natural skincare products. Chen, do I look better in this or this? Feilai was holding two pieces of clothing. One was a white printed t-shirt, and the other was a gray off-the-shoulder t-shirt. This one is off the shoulder, Chen Zhao said. When a woman asks you, which one looks good on me? You can't say, you look good in all of them. Because women would think that you didn't think about it seriously, and that your answer was too perfunctory. They didn't want a vague answer, but a definite one. All right then, I'll wear this white printed t-shirt. Why? If you don't respect my answer, why do you want me to answer this question? Because of your taste, I feel that the opposite of your choice must be a better choice. Feilai, you're hurting me. All right, have you brought everything you need? Yes, Chen Zhao said. We can go now. Chen Zhao, Feilai Zherlin, and the entire family boarded Feilai. Even Blackie was no exception. Today was a family vacation. No one could be absent. Let's go. Beep, beep. In one of the submarines, a sonar detector made a regular sound. Canoris was wearing an earpiece, listening to the feedback from the sonar. Just then, another voice came from the earpiece. Canoris, the whales are moving southwest. Canoris stretched and said to the submarine's pilot, move southwest. After 30 minutes of movement, a few more dots appeared on the sonar detector. Such intoxicating and beautiful notes. Canoris enjoyed the whales singing in her earpiece. Just then, the submarine slowly approached the whales. Through the glass boat, Canoris looked at the rulers of the ocean in the distance. Those huge black and white beasts were the biggest predators in the ocean. Killer whales were a very special species. Although they were predators, they were full of friendliness and kindness towards humans. Killer whales were also called killer whales, but there had never been cases of wild killer whales attacking humans. Some experts had done research and made some speculations. They thought that millions of years ago, killer whales were very likely to have a master and pet relationship with the primitive people of that era, just like how humans and dogs were now. This DNA sequence had been passed down to this day, which was why killer whales were so close to humans. For now, this was just a hypothesis. Of course, killer whales were the smartest creatures in the ocean. There was no doubt about that. At the same time, killer whales were not actually whales. They should be considered dolphins. Most dolphins in the ocean were very close to humans. Canoris and her team members were all from the marine biology research team. Their team's main research target was killer whales. They chased killer whales in the 7 oceans and conducted scientific research on them. Of course, they were also the most determined marine animal protectors. Hey, why did their singing stop? Why did the whales disperse? They seem to be frightened, the pilot said. You must be joking. This is a school of killer whales, the overlords of the sea. If it was a single killer whale, it might be attacked by a school of sharks. But a school of killer whales? No creature can threaten them. Just then, a huge black shadow swam past the submarine. The pilot and Canoris were dumbfounded. What was that? What was that? Canoris. The radar shows that there's a huge object about 67 meters long passing by you. Did you notice what it was? Canoris looked outside the window in a daze. The giant beast passed by the submarine, but did not attack them. She could not say a word. It was as if saying anything in the submarine would attract the attention of the giant beast. Canoris' mind was blank. What was that? What was that? How could there be such a giant in the ocean? The submarine she was on was 10 meters long, but compared to this giant beast, it was like the difference between an adult and a baby. Chapter 833. Just then, Canoris had already seen the giant beast clearly. Killer whale. It was a killer whale. But how could a killer whale be so big? This wasn't a killer whale at all. It was a super big monster. The biggest creature known to humans was the blue whale. The largest recorded blue whale was 35 meters long and weighed 250 tons. But compared to this killer whale, it was like the difference between Guoxiaoxi and Yao Ming. Too big. It was really too big. If one did not observe it closely, they would not be able to imagine how big this killer whale was. What is that? Stan asked blankly. Chase it, chase it. Canoris seemed to be possessed. Canoris. This is too dangerous. We still don't know if it's a killer whale or not. Listen to me and chase it. As long as we take a picture of this super monster, do we still need to worry about research funding? All right. But our submarine might not be able to catch up to it. Full speed ahead. Full power. Canoris, it's better to be careful. Our submarine has been used for 20 years. No problem. Chase it. The pilot, Stan, had no choice but to listen to Canoris's orders. Canoris, where are you going? The voice of their leader, Professor Ruffalo, came from the communicator again. Professor Ruffalo, we're tracking that killer whale, that super monster. What? You said that it's a killer whale? Yes, I saw it. A killer whale, a super killer whale. Impossible. Killer whales can't be that big. I saw it. Stan saw it too. We're going to track that killer whale now. After that, the speed of the submarine suddenly slowed down. What's going on? Why did it slow down? Oh no. The engine is off. Stan tried to restart the engine, but it failed. Their research submarine had been in service for too long. It had already been 20 years. But because of the research funding, they had no money to replace it. He could only repair the submarine continuously, and it took him 20 years to do so. The water pressure system seems to have stopped working. We're sinking, Stan said. Oh no, this area is at least 300 meters deep. If we sink, we won't even be able to save us. Let me try and see if I can restart the water pressure system. Stan tried and failed again. Damn it. Why did it break down at this time? As the submarine continued to sink, the two of them could only put on their diving suits and plan to dive out. He had to leave the submarine as soon as possible while the water was not too deep. Canoris, when you enter the sea later, take a deep breath first. It's already very deep here, you can't open your mouth. All right, I got it. Canoris nodded. I'll go out first, you follow me. Stan went out from the hatch first. The huge water pressure forced him to swim upstream. Because he didn't have any diving equipment, and was only wearing a diving suit, he couldn't hesitate at all. Canoris got out of the hatch too. But the moment she entered the sea, the huge water pressure made her body lose its momentum. Rumble, rumble. Canoris opened her mouth subconsciously, and seawater poured into her mouth in an instant. Her body was sinking rapidly too. Just as she was losing consciousness, a black shadow shrouded her from below. Immediately after, Canoris felt her body coming into contact with a solid and huge shell, and the water pressure kept decreasing. It's that thing. Canoris's face was full of shock, and it soon surpassed Stan's. Stan was also shocked by the black shadow that suddenly caught up from below. Then he saw that Canoris was on the back of the huge beast. Canoris finally rushed out of the water, but the huge beast had already left. Even on the surface of the water, it only revealed a little bit. Stan also surfaced and looked at Canoris. Canoris, are you alright? Cough, cough. I'm fine. Where's that big guy? I saw it return to the depths of the sea again. I want to find it. I have to find it. Canoris, you know that it might not be a good thing for it if we continue to search for it, Stan said. Do you think I'll hurt it? No, we're both members of the Marine Animal Protection Organization, Stan said. Of course I believe that you won't hurt it. But if the news gets out, do you know what will happen to those whaling ships? He was a more rational person, so he thought more clearly. How much would such a huge beast be worth to whaling ships? Whaling ships nowadays didn't just hunt for whale meat. Many whaling ships hunted all kinds of whales and dolphins to make them into specimens. A killer whale specimen could be sold for $300,000 to $400,000. That was much more valuable than just selling whale meat. But if it was such a super huge beast, maybe there was only one of it in the ocean, then the price could be 10 times, 20 times, or even 100 times. Almost no whaling ship would miss such a huge profit. Canoris bit her lower lip. I just want to say thank you to it. Hearing Stan's words, Canoris also understood this. They were a marine animal research team. Apart from tracking marine animals, they also conducted research. Sometimes they also had to fight with some whaling ships. The research ship had already discovered the two of them. It approached and pulled them onto the ship. The ocean. The boundless ocean. For most of their family members, this was something they'd never felt before. Even Walter, Black Ma, and White Ma often went to Angel Beach to play. But it was their first time actually going out to sea. Walter excitedly ran along the edge of the yacht, from the bow to the stern, and then from the bottom to the top. When Jerlin was in San Francisco, she'd gone out to sea with Chen Zhao once. She'd also gone out to sea for Steven's movie celebration party. But it was at night, and she'd been sleeping in the cabin. She also liked to go out to sea. In Chen Zhao's arms, she pointed excitedly to the left and right. Chen Zhao put a sun hat on her head. He didn't want Jerlin to get tanned. It was better to make her fair and pretty. Chen, come quickly. I caught a fish, but I can't pull it up. Come quickly. Chen Zhao saw that Fei Lai was pulling on the fishing rod. It was already bent into a full moon. Chapter 834. Judging from the strength, the fish was more than 50 kilograms. However, a 50-kilogram fish could pull at least 150 kilograms in the water. Fei Lai's belly wasn't big, and her body was strong. Otherwise, she might even be dragged into the water. After taking the fishing rod, Chen Zhao pulled the fish up. The fishing rod was very tough. It could even pull up a 200-kilogram tuna, let alone a 50-kilogram fish. Chen, what fish is this? Chen Zhao didn't know either. The fish had a green back and a white belly. It was around 1 meter long, and its mouth could fit a fist. Without Chen Zhao's help, Fei Lai wouldn't be able to pull it up by herself. We'll eat this fish for lunch. Fei Lai's face was flushed. She was very proud of her achievement. Even though Chen Zhao had pulled the fish up in the end, she felt that it was her achievement. The greatest enjoyment of sea fishing was actually the process of fighting with the big fish. However, Fei Lai clearly couldn't enjoy this right now. The underlings set up the barbecue rack. The three demons had to work together to pick up the fish. After cleaning it, they started to grill it. These underlings' cooking skills were top-notch. To them, if they didn't know how to cook, they were worthless. Fei Lai, I plan to make our land bigger. Isn't our land big enough? It's still a bit small, Chen Zhao said. In the future, we'll plant more vines and raise a few horses. Our children will be able to ride horses in our pastures and forests. Also, when our other children grow up, they'll have children too. If we don't have a big enough space, we won't be able to chase them out into the wild. You can buy it if you have the money. Fei Lai maintained a medium speed. They were here to have fun, not to rush. The noon sun was too strong. Chen Zhao, Fei Lai and Zhilin lay in a shaded cabin. The two sides of the cabin were empty. There was only a 1-meter-tall glass fence. They could enjoy the sea breeze and block the sun at the same time. Just then, two ships appeared in the distance. They were shooting at each other with water guns. What are they doing? Just then, an underling ran in. Master, Mistress, we've received a request for help from a research ship. They want to borrow some fuel. Is it that ship over there? Chen Zhao pointed in the distance. One of the ships looked like a research ship. Chen Zhao had good eyesight. Even though they were a nautical mile apart, he could still see clearly. The other one should be a fishing boat. There were many fishing tools on the boat. He just didn't understand why they were fighting. Usually, when there was a dispute at sea, as long as it wasn't a military conflict, it would basically be shooting each other with water guns. The water gun on the boat was not the kind used to clean cars. The water pressure from the water gun on the boat was estimated to be 5 MPa. If it hit a person, it could even kill them. There was a humanitarian rule at sea. If a distress signal was sent out on the sea, it would usually be helped if possible. For example, borrowing fuel. Even if he didn't borrow it, he wouldn't be breaking the law. However, they would still be criticized by the public. So, since they wanted to borrow it from him, then let them borrow it. Let's wait for them to finish their water fight. Then we'll go over. Chen Zhao didn't want to be affected by them. Whether it was the fishing boat or the research ship, they were at most $1 or $2 million. His boat was dozens of times larger than theirs. He didn't want their water fight to affect his boat and cause it to be damaged. Even though the research ship ran out of fuel, it was still able to fight with the fishing boat without any hesitation. The two sides fought for more than an hour before the fishing boat finally left. Only then did Chen Zhao have the boat approach the research ship. Carrying little Zhilin, Chen Zhao boarded the research ship with Fei Lai. There were a dozen people on the research ship. The leader was a white-bearded old man. "Hello, I'm Ruffalo. These are my team members," Professor Ruffalo said. "Hello, I'm Chen Zhao. This is my girlfriend and daughter." Chen Zhao shook hands with Ruffalo. "How much fuel do you need? If possible, it's best if you can lend us a ton. We need enough fuel to go to Los Angeles," Professor Ruffalo said. "We'll pay you in cash." Sure. The request wasn't too much. Plus, Chen Zhao had prepared enough fuel. "By the way, why did you fight with that fishing boat?" Fei Lai asked. "They're a whaling ship," Professor Ruffalo said. "We were tracking a pod of whales, but they attacked the pod directly, so we turned on the water cannon and shot them, so that they couldn't attack the pod." At this moment, a person suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Everyone immediately panicked and hurriedly went to support that person. "Stan, what's wrong? Lay him down. Don't support him. He seems to have an acute pneumothorax," Chen Zhao said. "Was he hit when you were fighting? Or did he dive before?" Acute pneumothorax was often caused by a momentary imbalance in air pressure. Air would enter the chest cavity and cause air to accumulate. It could also be caused by a burst alveolus in the lungs. If it was only a minor symptom, it could recover after a few days of rest. If it was serious, it could be life-threatening. Stan had already spat out blood, which meant that his injuries were more serious. "Do you have oxygen tanks on the boat?" "Give him oxygen," Fei Lai said. She also knew how to deal with this situation quickly. "Do you have syringes and needles on the boat?" "The bigger the better." Everyone looked at each other. Professor Ruffalo shook his head. "No. Sir, can you save Stan?" "Go to my cabin and get my toolbox," Chen Zhao said. "I have needles." Fei Lai looked at her boat and shouted, "King Kong, bring Chen's toolbox." Hearing Fei Lai's voice, King Kong immediately took the toolbox and jumped 7 or 8 meters, landing on the deck of the research boat. Everyone let out a cry of surprise as they looked at the huge mountain gorilla in disbelief. Go back to the boat. Don't scare them. Feilai patted King Kong's head. Whoa, whoa. King Kong jumped again and landed on Feilai. Is that your pet? Professor Ruffalo stared at the gorilla in disbelief. Only then did he realize that King Kong wasn't the only one on Chen Zhao's boat. There were also many pets, big and small. Chapter 835. Your entire ship is filled with beasts. Aren't you afraid of danger? Ruffalo asked, confused. As long as you treat them sincerely, they'll treat you like family, Feilai said. Chen Zhao took out a needle and stabbed it hard under Stan's second rib. People with acute pneumothorax mainly had air in their lungs, so they had to use needles to expel it. Normal needles couldn't expel air. Syringes and needles could expel air directly. To Chen Zhao, this kind of treatment was only a small surgery. Even Feilai probably knew how to do it. Stan's chest gradually relaxed, and his breathing became much smoother. He's fine now, Chen Zhao said. This is an anti-inflammatory medicine. If he has a high fever, give him 2 pills. He'll be fine after a night's sleep. Mr. Chun, Miss Feilai, thank you, Professor Ruffalo said gratefully. The others on the ship also thanked Chen Zhao and Feilai. We'll have a party on the sea. Are you interested? Join us. Aren't you going to LA? LA is right there, Professor Ruffalo said, smiling. It won't run away. If you leave, I don't know when I'll see you again. Okay then. Kids, go and prepare food. Let us treat Mr. Chun and Miss Feilai well. Professor Ruffalo looked at Feilai. Can I invite your kids to join us? Are you sure you won't scare your team? Chen Zhao asked. They're a group of brave young people, and they really like animals. Okay then. Chen Zhao looked at Feilai. You guys come over. Be careful. Don't fall into the sea. Just then, the animals on Feilai came out one after another. The people on the research ship were shocked to see such a large group of people. They couldn't help but admire Chen Zhao and Feilai for daring to raise so many fierce beasts. What breed is this red lizard? It's so big. Don't go over. I'm afraid it'll swallow you whole. Chen Zhao looked at the team members who were interested in abitos. Don't be afraid. It's called abitos. It doesn't eat people. Mr. Chun, is this lizard a Komodo dragon? Professor Ruffalo asked in surprise. Yes, I bought it from a pet store. I heard that it was a genetic mutation. I didn't expect it to grow so big. Mr. Chen, can you lend it to me? I want to study it. Professor Ruffalo, your request is too much. To me, they are all my children. I will not lend my children to others for research, Ruffalo said with a smile. Sorry. Professor Ruffalo was also a little embarrassed. This request was indeed too much. However, after doing research for so many years, he had come into contact with some creatures with mutated genes. In fact, the so-called research was basically meaningless. After all, most mutations were DNA mutations. Humans didn't even understand their own DNA, so how could they understand other organisms? Soon, the people on the ship realized that Chen Zhao's pets didn't attack people at all. For example, the princess looked so scary. But it actually took a can of beer and nestled at the bow, enjoying the sea breeze and drinking beer. That kind of posture, that kind of expression, it was really too much like a person. Feilai took a glass of juice and was chatting with Kanoris and a few other female team members. Kanoris, what's the most magical thing you've experienced? You might not believe it, but the most magical thing I've experienced is being saved by a killer whale. And it happened today. This killer whale might be even bigger than your yacht. It's so magical. I want to find it and thank it, Kanoris said. Kanoris said, you might never be able to imagine how beautiful that scene was. That was the most beautiful killer whale I've ever seen. It was like the king of the sea, patrolling its territory. Perhaps to it, I was just a pitiful little worm. But to me, it was life and death. Feilai didn't know what to say. She immediately guessed that the one who saved Kanoris was Amon. Only Amon had such a huge body in the world. However, Amon was indeed beautiful. It was mainly because of its huge body that brought about a different kind of beauty. Just then a man walked over. Miss Feilai, can I buy you a drink? Sorry, I can't drink. Miss Feilai, is that Asian not allowing you to drink? You don't have to control yourself. A pretty girl like you should have more freedom. Oh, if that Asian can't satisfy you in that area, you can come and find me. Feilai's expression changed immediately. She splashed the juice in her hand at the man's face. What are you doing? The man was furious and raised his hand to fight back. But as soon as he raised his hand, it was grabbed. The man turned around and saw a gloomy-faced Chun Zhao standing behind him. He wanted to pull his hand back, but Chun Zhao was stronger. Let go of me. Chun Zhao tossed the man into the sea. Feilai, let's go. Mr. Chun, what's wrong? Professor Ruffalo hurried over. Go ask your people, Chun Zhao said, his face green. Chun Zhao and Feilai were both unhappy. They brought their family back to the boat. Professor Ruffalo looked at the rescued team member with a green face. Benedict, why are you doing this? He'd already learned the whole story from Canoris and the others. Usually, Benedict didn't behave himself and would occasionally have some conflicts with the female team members. He turned a blind eye to it and pretended that nothing had happened. But now, he was insulting another woman and even wanted to hit her. This was too much. I just wanted to treat that woman to a drink, Benedict said indifferently. She actually splashed juice at me. Don't you know that Miss Feilai is pregnant and can't drink? Canoris said coldly. She agreed because she hated this teammate before her to the extreme. He was extremely disrespectful to women. The friendly atmosphere of the party had been completely ruined by him. I didn't do anything. That barbarian just threw me into the sea. Benedict, you're fired, Professor Ruffalo said coldly. When you reach the shore, leave by yourself. He was completely disappointed in Benedict. Professor, it's just a small accident. I didn't do anything wrong. Why are you firing me? Because your behavior disgusts me, Professor Ruffalo said in disgust. Chapter 836. Professor, that bastard is not a good person. When he got off the ship just now, his eyes were quite unfriendly. So what? Professor Ruffalo said disapprovingly. Anyway, we'll resupply in Los Angeles, and then go out to sea. That bastard can forget about returning to our ship. It's a pity. Mr. Chen and Miss Feilai were originally so friendly. Not only did they provide us with fuel, but they also saved Stan. In the end, our relationship deteriorated because of that bastard. Forget it. Let's not talk about that bastard, Professor Ruffalo said in disgust. Professor, Benedict joined our research ship a year ago, but I feel that his interest is not in scientific research, Canoris said. He might be trying to find out about the ruins of Macasa. What ruins of Macasa? It was the first time Canoris had heard of this name. 20 years ago, I wasn't actually doing scientific research on marine animals. I was a scholar in the Department of Archaeology and was the assistant of the famous Charles Lee at that time. Charles Lee was the most authoritative expert and scholar of the Inca civilization at that time. We discovered that in the history of the Inca, there was a king called Macasa. That year, we went out to sea to look for the ruins of Macasa. Wait, the Inca civilization should be located in South America, and a small portion of their territory is in North America. Canoris interrupted Professor Ruffalo. Although she was not an archaeologist, she still knew some things. The Inca civilization should not have developed overseas. I used to think so too, but Charles Lee found something special. I used to think so too, but Charles Lee discovered something special at that time. Then, we set off towards the depths of the sea and arrived at an island. Due to the defects in the communication equipment and navigation system at that time, we could not determine the location of the sea where we were at that time. We found a large amount of gold on the island, but at this time, there was internal strife within our archaeological team. Some people thought that we should continue with the archaeology, while others thought that we should seal the news and transport the gold away. And then the infighting began. It was like we were possessed, shooting at each other. Professor Ruffalo said painfully. It was my first time going out to sea, so I got the sailor's disease. I didn't participate in either side, so I was resting on the ship. When I woke up, everything was over. There were 43 people in the archaeological team, and only 4 of them were alive. Including me, there were 5 of them. One of them told me the truth, and he even gave me part of his gold. I didn't take it. Why? My wife was one of the victims, Professor Ruffalo said. The 5 of us boarded the ship and left the island. The 4 of them all left the archaeological team. They all became rich, but within a year, they all died one by one. Golden Curse? Canoris asked in confusion. That's right, the Golden Curse. The Golden Curse was very famous in Native American legends. There were many versions of the legend of the Golden Curse. The main idea of the Golden Curse was that if you took something you shouldn't take, you would be cursed. Of course, although the Golden Curse sounded scary, even someone like Canoris, who was dedicated to protecting marine animals and scientific research, could not help but be tempted by the desire for gold. Then, Professor, do you know the route to the Marquesa ruins? Professor Ruffalo shook his head with a wry smile. I spent half of my time recuperating in the cabin. Even when I finally arrived at that island, I was still in bed and never got off the ship. At that time, it was my first time out to sea, and I didn't even know anything about sailing. How could I know the route to the Marquesa ruins? They were scientific research ships, and after replenishing their supplies, they returned to the ship one after another, ready to set sail. Canoris was very interested in the Marquesa ruins that Professor Ruffalo had mentioned. After setting sail, she still asked Professor Ruffalo about the Marquesa ruins. All right, it's already very late. If you want to know more about the Marquesa ruins, I'll give you Charles Lee's diary tomorrow. There's more information about the Marquesa ruins in it. All right. The 2 of them returned to the cabin, and when they passed by the cabin corridor, a person suddenly came out of Professor Ruffalo's room. Benedict, why are you still on the ship? Both Professor Ruffalo and Canoris were stunned. Benedict suddenly raised his gun and pointed it at Professor Ruffalo and Canoris. Where's the diary? Where's Charles Lee's diary? Where did you hide it? Benedict, this is a scientific research ship. Are you tired of living? Professor Ruffalo was not a young man. He would not be scared by Benedict so easily. Professor, Canoris looked worried. Benedict's face was ferocious, and his emotions were clearly out of control. Suddenly, the scientific research ship shook violently, and the entire ship was about to turn over. Benedict could not stand steadily, and the pistol in his hand accidentally fired. Bang! Professor Ruffalo's expression froze as he looked at the hole in his chest. Professor! Then gunshots came from outside. Then, a bearded man in full armor walked in and looked at Professor Ruffalo on the ground. Benedict, you actually attacked first. Did you find the thing? No. You killed him without getting the thing. The bearded man was furious. Wait. He's not dead. The professor is not dead yet. You can't treat him like this, Canoris shouted. Oh, he's not dead. A few more people came in and dragged the professor away. There were more than 20 people on the entire scientific research ship, and only a few were left. Canoris was also escorted out and gathered together with the other surviving companions. In their eyes, the scientific research ship had sunk into the sea. Who are you people? Canoris looked at the bandits in front of her with bloodshot eyes. Beautiful lady, as you can see, we are pirates. The bearded man grinned. You can call me Big Golden Teeth. That's what my peers call me. Canoris had indeed discovered that the bearded man's teeth were all inlaid with gold. Chapter 837. The members of the research ship, who had been captured by the pirates, all looked terrified. This was a civilized society, but now they were facing a barbaric law. Suddenly, a ship appeared out of the darkness. It appeared without any warning. A subordinate approached the big goldfish and said, "Boss, someone is here." Gold-Toothed looked at the ship that had appeared out of the darkness. "Oh, that woman is here. Put down your guns. It is not wise to fight her here." At this time the other ship approached. A few women jumped over from the other ship. "Honey, why are you here?" Gold-Toothed smiled. He opened his arms to give Gulai a warm hug. Gulai raised his gun and said, "Old bastard. You have 10 seconds to explain why you are in my territory." Gold-Toothed was still smiling. He did not care that Gulai had a gun pointed at him. "Honey, I am not here to hunt in your territory." "Then what is going on with them? Don't tell me they willingly boarded your ship. They are not prey, Gold-Toothed said with a laugh. Are you messing with me? Gulai coldly asked. I am serious. They are not prey. Look at them. Do they look like rich people? Then tell me who they are. They are members of a research ship, Gold-Toothed said. Research ship members? Are you crazy? Why did you come to my territory and capture a group of research ship members? Gulai angrily shouted. These people would not bring them any benefits. They would bring them a lot of trouble. After all, research ships were worthless targets. They were like porcupines. If they were attacked at sea, it would definitely bring about extremely bad effects. Don't worry, Gold-Toothed casually said. I have done a clean job. Their ship has already sunk into the sea. What is your goal? I want to find a ruin. That is all. What ruin? The Kamesa ruin. Gulai raised his eyebrows and asked with surprise. Do they know? Someone knows, Gold-Toothed said. How about it? Let's go together. 73, I'll take 7, Gulai said. My dear, you're too much. 40 is 60 and I'm 60. I'm the leader here, Gold-Toothed said. 50-50. After all, you're trespassing on my territory. If you refuse, you'll be declaring war on me. Guri's attitude was unyielding. All right, 50-50 it is then. You said that one of them knows about the Kamesa ruins? Who is it? Gulai asked impatiently. It's an old man, but he's injured. I'm treating him now. This old man has been to the Kamesa ruins, said the Gold-Toothed man. Find out the location as soon as possible. Looking at the starry sky, Chun Zhao and Fei Lai felt like they were in a trance. Fei Lai, are you still angry? Chun Zhao asked, hugging her. Don't talk. Fei Lai looked at the stars. She felt like her entire body was melting. It was too beautiful. So beautiful that one's mind couldn't accommodate any other thoughts. It was an unprecedented scene. No matter how many times he saw it, he would never get tired of its beauty. What's the brightest star? Venus, Chun Zhao said. What does China call it? Fei Lai asked curiously. Chang'e or Venus? Our child will be called Qiming in Chinese, Fei Lai said, looking at Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao glanced at her. Then do you know what Venus represents in the Western world? Aphrodite, Fei Lai said. The embodiment of love and beauty in ancient Greece. In Roman mythology, it corresponds to Venus. This ancient Greek goddess is synonymous with promiscuity and infidelity, Chun Zhao said. I don't want my child to have anything to do with them, even if it's just a name. There was something else Chun Zhao didn't say. In the JD Church, Venus represented the radiant angel Lucifer. Lucifer was also known as the Star of Dawn, referring to Venus. Okay, then what do you think our child should be called? We don't even know if it's a boy or a girl, Chun Zhao said. Let's not think too much. After the child is born, and we know its gender, we'll decide what to call it. He didn't want his child to have anything to do with Venus. Okay, Chun, can you know if the child in my stomach is a boy or a girl? Chun Zhao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How could he tell? You can't even do it in a month, and a child needs at least 3 months to form. Fei Lai, anticipation is the most fascinating thing. This process will keep you thinking about it. Then, when the answer is announced, all your anticipation will be satisfied. So do you want a boy or a girl? Well, a girl, Chun Zhao answered without hesitation. You have Jerlin. Isn't that enough? No matter how many there are, Chun Zhao answered. So you don't like boys? I like girls more, Chun Zhao answered straightforwardly. There was no reason. He just liked girls. What if it's a boy? I'll love him, but not as much as a girl. Don't you all Chinese want a boy to carry on the family line? I don't think that's correct. I also don't think that girls can't carry on the family line. Okay, then I'll pray to God that it's a girl. Fei Lai caressed her stomach. Right now, her face was brimming with motherly radiance. If Chun Zhao was asked when Fei Lai was the most beautiful, Chun Zhao would definitely say now. Ring, ring, ring. At this moment, the fishing rod beside them moved, and the bell at the end of the fishing rod let out a crisp and urgent sound. A big guy took the bait, Fei Lai cried immediately. Don't move. Let me do it. Chun Zhao stood up and went to pull the rod. The rods will spun rapidly. The big guy in the water kept pulling the line. Chin, aren't you going to pull the line? Fei Lai asked. I learned this from Laurent. The bigger the fish, the more you can't pull it first, because the fish is at its strongest. If you pull the line now, it might snap. Chen Zhao was indeed strong, but it wasn't impossible for the line to snap. In sea fishing, the process of fighting with a big fish was also a battle of wits and strength. It wasn't a direct contest of strength. One had to release and retract at times. When the big fish was exhausted, Chen Zhao pulled the rod with one hand. He could feel that it was a big guy. Chapter 838. A 3-meter-long swordfish floated in the sea. Chen Zhao pulled on the fishing rod unhurriedly. One had to admit that the fishing rod was really tough. The swordfish was at least 250 kilograms, so its strength in the water was probably 800 kilograms. But the rod didn't break, and the line didn't break either. Chen Zhao's arms were like the sea stabilizer. They didn't move at all. What a big swordfish! Fei Lai exclaimed. Chen Zhao slowly reeled in the line. Fei Lai immediately called the underling over. Get ready. We can eat sashimi tonight. Oh, which one of you knows how to make sashimi? Sashimi was all about knife skills. It wasn't that complicated. Of course, the types of fish were very different. The best sashimi was tuna, but swordfish was also a good choice. Be it swordfish or tuna, the bigger they were, the more delicious they were. Chen Zhao finally pulled the swordfish to the side of the boat. Then he used the harpoon to pull it onto the boat. He cut off a piece of meat from the swordfish's back. This was the swordfish's most developed muscle, as well as its most valuable part. The first piece was for Fei Lai, of course. The underling immediately prepared a dipping sauce for Fei Lai. Actually, the best seasoning for sashimi was wasabi. However, wasabi was too spicy and irritating. It wasn't suitable for pregnant women. These underlings were perversely obsessed with their master's eating habits. They might even know what they wanted to eat better than Chen Zhao and Fei Lai themselves. For example, if Chen Zhao didn't look good in the morning, they would choose to prepare breakfast for Chen Zhao. After Fei Lai got pregnant, she would occasionally eat something she didn't want to eat. The underling would also remind her immediately. Apart from King Kong, who was a pure vegetarian, the other pets wouldn't reject sashimi. Of course, there was one family member that couldn't eat it. It was Blackie. Blackie watched the family eat sashimi and kept muttering, I really want to taste sashimi. Beelzebub, what does sashimi taste like? Carrie, do you taste sashimi like this? King Kong, you can eat it. Why don't you? Mistress, pregnant women shouldn't eat too much sashimi, the underling said. Why? Fei Lai asked, confused. That's because most swordfish have the problem of excessive metal content. Swordfish spend their entire lives swimming, and they often pass through heavily polluted waters, so their food sources are more complicated. Chen, is he telling the truth? Yes, just try one now, Chen Zhao said with certainty. After you give birth, you can eat as much as you want. Just try to eat less now. It wasn't that every swordfish had excessive metal content, but Chen Zhao didn't know if this one had. Generally, the bigger a swordfish was, the older it was, and the larger the sea it had swum through. Therefore, the possibility of it having excessive heavy metals was also higher. For example, in Japan, sashimi is their national dish. Every year, there were hundreds of cases of heavy metal poisoning caused by eating tuna or swordfish, which led to cerebral hemorrhage and stroke. Chen Zhao was also against Fei Lai eating sashimi, but he couldn't completely stop her from eating. Therefore, he still cut a piece. He couldn't eat more. Chen Zhao also had to be responsible for Fei Lai and the child in her stomach. Hearing Chen Zhao's answer, Fei Lai immediately lost her appetite for sashimi. Why didn't you say so earlier? Fei Lai, don't be so nervous. It's not as serious as you think. It's not like you can't eat anything. Professor Ruffalo, I don't need to say more. You should know your situation. I want to know the location of the Kamesa ruins. Gold-Toothed looked at Professor Ruffalo. Professor Ruffalo stared coldly at Gold-Toothed and the pirates. I don't even know how to find the Kamesa ruins. Without any warning, Gold-Toothed raised the gun in his right arm. Without even turning his head, he aimed at the team. No one knew who he was aiming at. Everyone huddled together in fear. Bang! One of the members of the expedition team was instantly hit in the head, and everyone let out a scream. Gold-Toothed didn't care who he hit. He just needed to force Professor Ruffalo to speak. I really don't know. Professor Ruffalo shouted anxiously. Let these kids go. They're innocent. Seeing a team member fall to the ground, Professor Ruffalo's heart bled. Gold-Toothed fired again. Kenora screamed. She was shot in the chest and fell into a pool of blood. I really don't. Before Professor Ruffalo could finish, Gold-Toothed fired again. Another child was killed in front of Professor Ruffalo. What did you say? I. Tears streamed down Professor Ruffalo's face. Don't kill anymore. Don't kill anymore. The oldest of the children had been with him for more than a decade. The youngest had only been with him for 2 or 3 years. 1 or 2 hadn't even graduated from university. Boss, how could you bear to kill such a beautiful woman? Benedict looked at Kenoris's corpse with a look of pity. Gold-Toothed waved his hand. Wash the deck. 3 corpses were thrown into the sea, but the killing on the pirate ship didn't stop. Gold-Toothed was getting impatient. Professor Ruffalo, I'll ask you one last time. Where's the Kamasa ruins? Professor Ruffalo knelt on the ground and cried. I have a diary left by Professor Charles. Maybe there's a clue. I went through your room. There's nothing. Professor Ruffalo took out his phone. Save it on my phone. Why didn't you take it out earlier? Why did you have to wait until I killed them all? Gold-Toothed shook his head. Lock them up. Ring ring, another fish? Chen Zhao was surprised. Is it a dead fish? How come there's no pulling force at all? Chen Zhao felt the pulling force on the rod. It was quite big, but there was no pulling force at all. Chen Zhao started to reel in the rod. In the darkness, something was pulled to the side of the boat. Chen, it's a person. Chen Zhao saw it too. Looking closely, it was none other than Kenoris in the water. Chen Zhao dragged Kenoris onto the boat. Fei Lai also went up to check. Is she dead? Chen Zhao checked. She's still breathing weakly, but she's not far from death. Can you save her? Chapter 839. Kenoris opened her eyes slowly, but she fainted again due to her weakness. After some time, Kenoris woke up again. This time, she was woken up by a tongue. Kenoris turned around and saw a huge bear licking her face. Ah! After screaming, Kenoris calmed down very quickly. Princess! Kenoris started looking around. Wasn't this a pirate ship? Just then Fei Lai walked in. Kenoris, are you awake? You saved me. Chen saved you, Fei Lai said. What happened? We were betrayed. Benedict, the asterisk shoal who harassed you, colluded with pirates and attacked us. Pirates? Pirates robbed your research ship? Fei Lai was confused. If pirates wanted to rob someone, they would rob a cargo ship. Did the pirates have nothing better to do than to rob the scientific research ship with such little supplies? Can you call the police for me? Sorry, there's no signal, Fei Lai said. Fei Lai said. After we entered this area yesterday, the signal seemed to have been completely blocked. This area? Where are we now? I don't know. Somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. Aren't you going back to LA? Not for now, Fei Lai said. We're here for a vacation. With Fei Lai's help, Kenoris walked out of the cabin. The sky was a bit dark today. There were some dark clouds, but it didn't rain. Kenoris saw Chen Zhao fishing on the deck. Hi, Mr. Chen. Hi, Kenoris. Are you okay? Not very well. Kenoris replied weakly. Okay. If you don't feel well, you can lie down inside. Mr. Chen, it's very dangerous at sea. There's a pirate ship cruising on the sea. The sea is so big. It won't be easy to meet them, Chen Zhao said unconcerned. Mr. Chen, I'm not joking. These pirates are all cold-blooded criminals. If you meet them, you won't be able to survive. Fei Lai looked at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao's expression was still as calm as ever. Pirates. I know pirates too. I should be able to help. Kenoris was speechless. She did not know where Chen Zhao's confidence came from. This was not a civilized society. Once they encountered those vicious outlaws at sea, they would definitely die. Mr. Chen, regarding my suggestion, please consider it carefully. I've thought about it. It's rare for Fei Lai and I to come out for a vacation, so we hope to finish it. Kenoris didn't understand why Chen Zhao was so obsessed with vacations. Besides, my luck is pretty good. I won't be so unlucky as to encounter pirates. Chen, there's a ship over there. Fei Lai pointed in the distance. A ship entered their field of vision. Pirate ship. It's a pirate ship. Kenora's expression changed. She would never forget the silhouette of that ship even if she died. It was that ship. They had attacked the research ship. Our luck seems to be a little bad recently, but it doesn't matter, they won't come to us. Boss, there's a yacht over there. The gold-toothed man picked up his binoculars. Phalai, what a beautiful yacht. It must belong to someone rich. Phalai? Benedict's eyes brightened. Boss, there's a woman on that yacht. She's really pretty. Really? Send them a message, and trick them to stop. Pirate ships usually didn't attack directly when they hijacked their prey. Most of the time, they would use deceptive methods. They would approach them first, and then attack after boarding the ship. Hi, our ship has some problems. Can you give us some help? The pirate ship sent a message to Phalai. Sure. If you catch us, we'll help you. Phalai replied to the pirate ship. Fuck, they know who we are. The gold-toothed man looked at the yacht. Chase them. Boss, they're really fast. We can't catch them. The gold-toothed man's face darkened. Just then, a voice came from the communicator again. Can't catch them? Do you want me to slow down? Boss, they're slowing down. Damn asterisks holes, how dare they trick us? The gold-toothed man was a tyrant at sea. He had never been tricked like this before. Picking up his binoculars, the gold-toothed man looked at the yacht 3 nautical miles away. There was a person standing on the deck of the yacht. He was gesturing at them, giving them the middle finger. Chase them. We have to catch them. I'm going to tear them into pieces. But boss, even if they slow down, they're still faster than us. Contact Goulent, and tell her to stop them. Boss, there seems to be a strong magnetic field in this area. We can't use long-distance communication. Kenoris looked at Chen Zhao. She was speechless. Not only did Chen Zhao not run when he saw the pirate ship, he even slowed down on purpose to trick the pirates. If something happened and the pirates caught up, what would you do? Mr. Chen, I think we should get rid of them as soon as possible. This isn't a fun game, Kenoris said. If the pirates catch up to us, both you and Phalai will be in danger, Kenoris said. Fine, let's speed up. Chen Zhao shrugged. He didn't want to come into contact with the pirates either. After all, if he did, it would definitely damage Phalai. He really treasured his and Phalai's yacht. He didn't want to damage Phalai because of this. After Phalai sped up, Kenoris finally let out a sigh of relief. This yacht was indeed incomparable to a regular ship. It was probably as fast as a warship. Phalai's value wasn't just in the hull and the luxurious decorations. It also had its own technology. That was why it was so expensive. Once Phalai sped up, the pirate ship could only watch helplessly as Phalai left. Mr. Chen, what's your final destination this time? A place called Kamesa Island, Chen Zhao said. Kenoris suddenly looked up, her eyes filled with shock. You're going to the Kamesa ruins? Huh. You know about the Kamesa ruins? Chen Zhao looked at Kenoris in surprise. Professor Ruffalo once told me about the golden curse on it. Ah, Chen, is that really a treasure map? Phalai exclaimed in surprise. I don't know. Mr. Chen, let's not talk about whether the golden curse of the Kamasa ruins exists or not. Those pirates are also going for the Kamasa ruins. If you want to go to the Kamasa ruins, you will definitely meet them head-on. Phalai, are you still going? Chen Zhao looked at her. Chapter 840. How about we go back now and take care of those bastard pirates? Chen Zhao asked. Kenoris was about to pee her pants. Were they brave or stupid? Forget it. Don't waste it on those pirates, Phalai said. I want the gold. Phalai, the gold is cursed by an evil spirit. Kenoris looked at Phalai worriedly. Phalai glanced at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao shrugged nonchalantly. I'm not afraid of any shit curses. To Phalai and Kenoris, these words had a completely different meaning. Kenoris thought that Chen Zhao didn't believe in curses. Phalai understood Chen Zhao's true meaning. Chen Zhao wasn't afraid of curses. As long as he wasn't afraid, all problems were no longer problems. For the rest of the time, everything was calm and peaceful. Kenoris realized that Chen Zhao and Phalai didn't care about the cursed gold, or the pirates at all. She really didn't want to die with them. But what could she do? Ask Chen Zhao and Phalai to give her a boat and let her escape? Alright, Phalai did have a motorboat, but she wouldn't be able to return to the shore alive with just this motorboat. This wasn't the coastal waters. They'd entered the international waters long ago. What pained her the most was that Chen Zhao and Fei Lai were still showing off their love in front of her. Ah. Canoris looked down and realized that Jerlin was tugging at her pants. Smiling bitterly, Canoris picked Jerlin up. Guret's team met up with Gold-Toothed again. Darling, did you miss me? Gold-Toothed still smiled, and went up to hug Guret. Guret aimed his gun at Gold-Toothed's head as usual. If you touch me again, I'll kill you. How can you bear to kill me? Gold-Toothed chuckled. This ocean seems a bit strange. Huh? We're all descendants of pirates, Gold-Toothed said. We should be used to this already. I have a bad feeling. Please don't say such depressing words before we find the Kamasa ruins. You should think about how we'll enjoy the gold after we find it. By a private island, Guret said. Is this our new home? The Gold-Toothed man asked. Gulai glanced at Gold-Toothed, but didn't say anything. She had known Gold-Toothed for a long time, and knew what kind of person he was. The Gold-Toothed man was holding a strange compass, and the needle on the compass started jumping crazily. The interference of the magnetic field is getting stronger. Looks like it's another cursed island. Guret looked into the distance. I hope we can successfully obtain the gold. Island! Island, there's an island ahead! Fei Lai exclaimed. Canoris heard the cry, and immediately came out of the cabin. Chen Zhao also looked up at the island in the distance. Dark clouds covered the sky above the island, and darkness enveloped the entire island. Fei Lai, why don't you stay on the boat? I'll go to the island alone. Fei Lai had already put on her equipment. She looked at Chen Zhao. His eyes were clearly filled with unwillingness. I'll forget it. Chen Zhao scratched his head and said helplessly. But it's getting dark, and the weather on the island isn't good. Let's wait until tomorrow morning. Just as the Fei Lai stopped 2 kilometers away from the island, 2 ships appeared behind it. Pirates! Pirates are here! Oh no! We're doomed! We have nowhere to run. Haha! I finally caught them! Gold-Toothed looked at the boat parked before the island and couldn't stop smiling. Guret picked up the binoculars. Instantly her expression changed. Fei Lai. She would never forget that yacht. And the owner of the boat. Guret's eyes flashed. Then she glanced at Gold-Toothed beside her. I'm going back to my boat, Guret said. Gold-Toothed didn't notice Guret's expression. He thought that she was preparing to go to the island, and didn't take it to heart. Gold-Toothed's boat stopped beside Fei Lai. Canoris's face paled in fear. Gold-Toothed was also surprised to see Canoris on the deck. You're not dead? Great. After killing you yesterday, I regretted it. It's such a pity that such a beautiful woman died. Canoris trembled slightly. She didn't dare to say anything. Gold-Toothed looked at Chen Zhao. Kid, you were the one who played with me, right? Why aren't you running now? Played with you? No, did I? I don't remember. Chen Zhao didn't seem to care. Boss, look at that woman. Isn't she pretty? Benedict asked, pointing at Fei Lai. It's indeed beautiful. The Gold-Toothed man whistled and grinned. Chen Zhao looked at the other pirate boat beside Gold-Toothed's. Hello. Guret, did you miss me? Guret looked at Chen Zhao calmly. No. You're with him? Chen Zhao asked. A temporary team, Guret answered. As expected, the most troublesome situation had occurred. You're also here for the gold on this island? Kid, you know there's gold on this island? Gold-Toothed was surprised. Not only did Chen Zhao know Guret, but he also knew that there was gold on the island. Ignoring Gold-Toothed, Chen Zhao said to Guret, Kill him and I'll give you 20% of the gold. Haha, Gold-Toothed laughed. This kid still didn't understand the situation, right? Canoris's face was also filled with despair. She didn't think that Chen Zhao would say something so stupid. We'll split 50-50, Guret answered calmly. Then I'll give you 30% at most. That's enough. Guret was silent for a while. I want 40%. Gold-Toothed was stunned. Canoris was too. What was going on? He didn't want 50%, but 40%? Did they have something going on? Gold-Toothed turned to Guret. Guret, what's the meaning of this? Gold-Toothed, I'm sorry. I don't want to be his enemy, so our cooperation ends here. Canoris's face was filled with shock. How did the situation suddenly change? What exactly was going on? If you don't want to be his enemy, I'll kill him with one shot. Are you going to fight me for a dead man? That's the problem. If it can be solved with one shot, it's not a problem anymore. All of Guret's pirates pointed their weapons at Gold-Toothed's ship. Similarly, all of Gold-Toothed's pirates pointed their weapons at Guret's ship. Hurry up and fight. I haven't seen people fight at such a close distance. Chapter 841. Suddenly, Benedict shot at Feili, and little Jerlin in her arms. Before anyone could react, Chun Zhao blocked the bullet with his hand. The deformed bullet fell to the ground. Everyone stared at Chun Zhao in shock. Chun Zhao turned to Feili. Feili, take Jerlin back to the cabin. Okay. Feili knew that she and Jerlin would only become targets here. He blocked the bullet with his hand, right? Did I see it wrong? Did he block the bullet with his hand? Still smiling, Chun Zhao gestured at Benedict to shoot. Guret, I changed my mind. I want. Roar. King Kong suddenly descended from the sky, jumping from the Feili onto the pirate ship and right in front of Benedict. Da-da-da. The surrounding pirates all aimed their machine guns at King Kong and started shooting wildly. But the bullets couldn't penetrate King Kong's body at all. Benedict almost peed his pants in fear. He fell to the ground on his butt, facing this terrifying giant beast. No one had the courage to stand before it. King Kong was extremely furious. Its respect for Feili was irreplaceable. In Chun Zhao's house, Feili was the one who protected it wholeheartedly. But Feili was being attacked. No one could understand its anger. King Kong, let me finish. Chun Zhao was unhappy that King Kong interrupted him. King Kong looked at Chun Zhao, then pointed at Benedict, and then at itself. It meant this guy is mine. Canoris's face was filled with shock. That really wasn't an ordinary mountain gorilla. Mountain gorillas weren't bulletproof. The bullets that hit its body were like tickles to it. Guret's eyes were also filled with shock. She knew how powerful Chun Zhao was. But she didn't expect that even Chun Zhao's pet was so terrifying. Whatever. Do it. Receiving Chun Zhao's order, King Kong smiled cruelly. Fuck. Gold-Toothed pointed his gun at King Kong's head and fired. King Kong's head didn't even move. He turned to look at Gold-Toothed. The huge arm swept across angrily. Gold-Toothed's body shattered like a sand sculpture. King Kong smashed his arms on the ground, and with a loud bang, the entire pirate ship shook violently. A dent was smashed into the deck. King Kong leaped high and grabbed the pirate ship's antenna. King Kong's power was second only to Chun Zhao's, but it was still monster level. Each of its strikes had a destructive force of 10 to 20 tons. The entire pirate ship was torn apart by it. As for Benedict, he didn't know what to do. He was not dead yet. Perhaps King Kong wanted to kill him in the end. King Kong, throw him into the sky with all your strength. I want to see how high you can throw him. King Kong stood on the pirate ship that had become scrap metal and grabbed Benedict with one hand. Benedict cried, begging for Chun Zhao's forgiveness and for someone to save him. But no one could save him. After King Kong gathered his strength, he suddenly threw Benedict out. Ah, what would be the effect of dozens of tons of force acting on a person? Benedict flew higher and higher. 100 meters, 200 meters, 300 meters, 500 meters. At the apex, Benedict began to fall. Falling from that height, no matter what was below, would shatter him into pieces. Even if Chun Zhao fell from that height, he would be smashed into pieces if he didn't take any precautions, let alone Benedict. Canoris finally understood why Chun Zhao had always been so knowledgeable. It turned out that he had raised such a monster. This was a monster through and through. The pirates who were still fine flopped on the surface. King Kong jumped back onto Feili. Quick, save the professor, Canoris suddenly exclaimed. Professor Ruffalo was also flopping on the surface. Chun Zhao threw a rope and pulled Professor Ruffalo onto the ship. You're welcome. Professor, how are you? Canoris asked. Canoris, you're not dead? Yes, Mr. Chun saved me. What just happened? Why did the pirate ship suddenly sink? Professor Ruffalo had been in the cabin the whole time, so he did not know what had happened outside. Where are they? Barty? Arthur? Canoris asked. Are they still on the pirate ship? Professor Ruffalo lowered his head, his expression heavy and sorrowful. They're all dead, by that Gold-Toothed. Where's that asterisk shoal? Where's that asterisk shoal now? Professor Ruffalo suddenly became indignant and hateful. And Benedict? Benedict's over there. Canoris pointed at the floating corpse. Gulai and her team were also a little frightened by King Kong at this moment. They did not dare to imagine what would have happened if Gurette did not know Chen Zhao. If Gurette had chosen to fight Chen Zhao, what would the result be? I suddenly feel a little unsatisfied that I killed that asterisk shoal so easily. Chen Zhao looked at King Kong. You stole my joy of revenge. King Kong looked at Chen Zhao with a wronged expression. Master, you agreed to it yourself. Canoris and Professor Ruffalo were both very sad. After all, their companions had all died. But they could not do anything. The only thing that comforted Professor Ruffalo was that Chen Zhao had avenged him. Gurette came to Chen Zhao's ship. Professor Ruffalo, you've been here before, right? Chen Zhao asked. This place? Why are you here? Professor Ruffalo had long discovered that this was Kamasa Island. It had once been his nightmare. For the gold, Chen Zhao said honestly. No, it's for a vacation. Because Fei Lai had already walked out, Chen Zhao had to answer truthfully. Mr. Chen, the gold here is full of misfortune. You shouldn't come here. Professor Ruffalo's kind personality started acting up again. I've been here before, so I know better than you how scary the gold here is. That's not a problem, Chen Zhao said. I'm more concerned about how much gold there is on this island. Do you really want to take the risk on the island? I'm already here. Do you think I'm joking with you? Professor Ruffalo told Chen Zhao about his experience. The gold in the Kamasa ruins is hidden at the top of the highest mountain. How much is it worth? A lot, about 100 tons. Chen Zhao gasped. Are you sure it's that much? Chapter 842. Is there any danger on the island? Chen Zhao asked. Danger? When our team first came to the island, it was like we changed into different people. We fought and fought. I think there's a demon on the island that can bewitch people. Chen Zhao glanced at Gurette. I hope you and your men can stay calm. Chen Zhao's words clearly had a hidden meaning. Gurette also understood. Whether it was herself or Chen Zhao, if anyone was bewitched, the result would be disastrous. Don't look at me, Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. I can't be bewitched. You can't defeat the demon's power, Professor Ruffalo said. Gurette looked at Chen Zhao. She knew that since Chen Zhao said this, he must be confident. After all, Chen Zhao was someone who'd actually killed a demon. The next day, everyone landed on the island. The sky above Kamasa Island was covered in dark clouds. Chilly winds blew on the island too. What made Professor Ruffalo and Canoris speechless was that Chen Zhao actually let Fei Lai and little Jerlin go on the island too. Not a single one of Chen Zhao's pets was left out. Is there a demon's aura on the island? Chen Zhao asked, carrying Samuel. I can't feel it. Mr. Chen, after you. Gurette didn't want to go first. Everyone entered the coconut forest. The ground was covered in low weeds and some mud. It was very uncomfortable to step on the ground. Suddenly, one of Gurette's men screamed. Without any warning, he was dragged down. A crocodile. Gurette's men immediately opened fire to save her. She was saved, but her calf was seriously injured. She couldn't walk alone. Just then another 2-meter-long crocodile jumped out of the grass. Gurette reacted quickly. He pulled out his gun and shot 3 times in a row. The crocodile died instantly. Do you need help? Chen Zhao asked. No, Gurette said. Leave this small problem to us. Fine. Chen Zhao pulled Fei Lai and took a step back. Everyone didn't understand what Chen Zhao meant. At this time, there was still a rustling sound coming from the grass in front of them. They could vaguely see many black shadows in the grass. Crocodiles. A horde of crocodiles. Some of the crocodiles were 3 to 4 meters long. The leading crocodile king was more than 7 meters long. It was much bigger than a betos and twice as heavy as a betos. It was probably the same size as the princess. These were all bay crocodiles, the largest reptile in the world. Gulf crocodiles could adapt to both saltwater and freshwater environments. Gurette's expression darkened. He turned to look at Chen Zhao. Chen, I only want 30%. If she didn't lower the price now, she would suffer heavy losses. Although her team had automatic weapons, there were too many of these crocodiles. Moreover, The thick shell of the Gulf crocodiles was very resistant to small-caliber firearms. Mid-caliber firearms could barely penetrate their shells, but it was still difficult to cause fatal damage. With so many saltwater crocodiles, and that gigantic beast, they would definitely be able to annihilate their entire team. Children, it's time to eat. The princess and King Kong howled and rushed forward. She dashed towards the Crocodile King. The Crocodile King wanted to bite the princess, but the princess slapped it with her claws. The Crocodile King was stunned. King Kong grabbed the Crocodile King's tail, while Princess's claws dug into the Crocodile King's head and neck. The Crocodile King struggled to break free, but facing Princess and King Kong, two monsters of strength, it was powerless. Everyone exclaimed. The Crocodile King's body was torn apart. Its intestines and organs were everywhere. Black Ma, White Ma, Abitos, and White Snow all rushed forward. This wasn't an evenly matched battle. It was a one-sided massacre. Connorus was already disgusted by the smell of blood. On the other hand, Walter stayed by Phalai's side. He wasn't weak either. However, Walter preferred to protect Phalai instead of rushing forward to kill. Seeing that they couldn't win, and that even their boss had been killed, the crocodiles didn't dare to fight anymore. They turned and ran. Stop chasing, Chen Zhao called. They're protected animals. You've killed more than half of them, and now you're thinking about protected animals? Everyone rested where they were. Chen Zhao helped the injured female pirate bandage her wounds. You didn't tell me that there are crocodiles on this island, Chen Zhao said to Professor Ruffalo. Ruffalo looked at Chen Zhao helplessly. I didn't know we'd encounter crocodiles. Chen Zhao furrowed his brows. How far is the treasure? It's on that mountain. Professor Ruffalo pointed to a mountain not far away. We've rested enough, Chen Zhao said. Let's go. They continued on their way. When they reached the foot of the mountain, Chen Zhao looked back at Phalai. Phalai, leave Jerlin to me. Are you tired? Chen, I'm not even a month pregnant. Okay. Tell me if you're tired. We'll rest here. Okay. There were traces of a man-made road on the mountain. It was winding and rugged, but it was still walkable. Chen Zhao reached out a hand. Phalai, hold me. Don't fall. Phalai looked up at Chen Zhao. She wasn't tired. She wasn't tired, but she knew that Chen Zhao was still worried about her. She couldn't help but feel warm inside. You just need to take care of Jerlin. I can take care of myself. Hold me. Chen Zhao stared at Phalai unrelentingly. Phalai couldn't change Chen Zhao's mind. If she didn't reach out, Chen Zhao wouldn't leave. Helplessly, Phalai could only hold Chen Zhao's hand. Phalai, how about we buy an island when we're rich in the future? When we're free, we can take a vacation there and invite friends and family to our private island. Actually, your current wealth is enough to buy an island, Phalai said. Normally, an island was only a few $1,000,000. However, it wasn't big. It was probably smaller than Mirror Lake. The team's journey was peaceful. They didn't encounter any danger. They went straight to the top of the mountain. There was a cave there. Everyone looked at Professor Ruffalo. The gold is in the cave. Where's the relic? Where's the bewitching curse? Chen Zhao said in disappointment. Why didn't anything happen? I'm disappointed. Chen, how much do you want something to happen? Everyone entered the cave. In an instant, a burst of golden light blinded everyone's eyes. The entire cave was covered in gold. But at this moment, Samuel said something that dampened the mood. So much demon gold. And it's been cursed with the spirit of speech, Beelzebub said. It wasn't gold. It was demon gold. Phalai, we might have come here for nothing. Why? Phalai asked, confused. Can't we take the gold? Yes. Chen Zhao could resist curses. Phalai had a little demon to protect her, and Jerlin also had a little angel to protect her. The three of them were extremely effective against curses. He couldn't do anything about the spirit of speech. Of course, the most important thing was that demon gold looked very similar to gold. Chapter 843. Not only was it worthless demon gold, but it was also enchanted with spiritual words. To get a piece of demon gold, one had to kill 3 people. Then, the other person's luck would be transferred to them. Phalai, don't touch the gold. Let's go. Chen Zhao turned to leave. Phalai couldn't move. She seemed to have been bewitched. Chen Zhao slapped Fei Lai's face. She froze for a moment, then came back to her senses. Covering her face, Fei Lai stared at Chen Zhao. Tears were about to fall out. That. It was Chen Zhao's first time hitting Fei Lai. He had never thought that he would hit her. The first gunshot rang out. The killing had already begun. Including Professor Ruffalo and Canoris, they were also in battle. Everyone was bewitched. They started killing each other crazily. Canoris grabbed a piece of demon gold and smashed it hard on Professor Ruffalo's head. Fei Lai, let's go. With a serious expression, Fei Lai turned to leave. The sounds of fighting in the cave lasted for a long time. When everyone walked out of the cave, they were all covered in blood. They had gradually woken up from their madness. Canoris held a piece of demon gold in her hand. She had a faint smile on her face. There were either tears or blood at the corners of her eyes. Another person walked out, also covered in blood. Then Gurette walked out. She was very clean, but she held a bloody piece of demon gold in her hand. The people who walked out were all very calm. The sorrow in their bodies and hearts made them unable to summon any strength to fight. Chen Zhao looked at them and frowned. This wasn't a relic. It was a trap. Chen, was I like them just now? Fei Lai asked. Does it still hurt? Chen Zhao looked at Fei Lai with heartache. He had never thought that he would hit Fei Lai. A little. Including Canoris and Gurette, there were 5 people who came out. Canoris was the weakest. She couldn't stop crying. She knew what she had done. She couldn't control the fear and sorrow in her heart. She had actually killed the most respected Professor Ruffalo with her own hands. On the way down, no one spoke. Chun, why didn't they take more gold? They can't afford it. Canoris stayed on Gurette's pirate ship. She could no longer return to land. After all, she had killed Professor Ruffalo. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai also started their journey back. However, he didn't understand why Fanity would give him the map. What kind of mentality did she have when she handed this thing over to him? Without a doubt, this was definitely not something good. Fanity wanted to use this to frame him? It didn't seem to make sense. She should have understood that this kind of trap wouldn't be able to kill her. Instead, it would make him hate her. Citibank Irvine headquarters, Mr. Churchill, thank you for coming. Amira shook hands with Churgiz. Please come in. After 2 days, Amira finally made an appointment with Churchill. Compared to TV, Churgiz looked fatter in real life. Churchill, who had kept his sunglasses on, rubbed his nose. I'm not going in. What? Why? Churgiz looked up at the outer layer of the building and shook his head. This place is filled with misfortune. Misfortune? Amira's expression changed slightly. Mr. Churgiz, what did you see? Misfortune? Amira looked at the building. She didn't sense anything. Okay, Ms. Amira, Churgiz said. I should go now. Mr. Churgiz, please wait. Amira hurriedly stopped him. Ms. Amira, you want me to help you solve something in this building, right? Amira nodded. Yes, Mr. Churgiz. What did you find? Please tell me the truth. Depraved, dark, gloomy, filthy, and filled with evil. This is an evil spirit. It's killing people. Suddenly, a person descended from the sky and landed beside Churgiz and Amira. Amira was scared out of her wits. At this moment she finally believed it. She believed the ghost. She believed Churgiz's words. Mr. Churgiz, please help me get rid of the evil spirit here. Please help me. I don't care how much it costs. Churgiz looked at the corpse. A moment later he said, $100,000. Okay, no problem. When? Amira asked. Tonight at 12. Tonight? The bank isn't open at night, Amira said. Then I can't help you. Please find someone else, Ms. Amira. Wait. I'll think of something. Tonight? Churgiz nodded and turned to get into his MPV. His manager Chadwick was in the business class. Chadwick, this is bad. There really is an evil spirit in this building. Just now, someone jumped and fell right in front of me. What should I do? What should I do? Churgiz showed his true colors as soon as he returned to the car. At this moment, Churgiz didn't look calm at all. His face was full of panic. Churgiz, calm down. Don't be so excited. This is all fake. It's just a coincidence. Chadwick comforted Churgiz. There are no evil spirits or demons in this world. It's just what those idiots made up. But I really don't feel well. Let's give up on this deal. How can you do that? Think about it. That's $100,000. Are you willing to give it up? Chadwick said calmly. Think about it. How many times have you encountered similar situations in the past? When did an evil spirit really appear? The clients were just scaring themselves. Chadwick and Chergis had been working together for 4 years. Chadwick was a down-and-out manager, while Chergis was a fraud. They first met when Chadwick asked Chergis to tell his fortune. Chergis didn't get it right, so they fought. Later, the two inexplicably worked together. Chadwick was responsible for promoting Chergis, telling people that Chergis was a very powerful spiritualist. As time went by, Chergis became more and more famous. Even TV stations asked him to appear on their shows. Chergis was also very conflicted. If he gave $30,000 to Chadwick, he would still get $70,000. It wasn't a small amount. Usually a deal would be a few thousand at most. Just do a few mysterious things like before. Then tell the woman that you've driven the evil spirit away. You'll get the money. That simple? Chapter 844. Mr. Chergis, I'm at the entrance of the bank. Are you there? Amira asked, holding the phone. I'm here. Chergis walked out of the darkness. Amira was startled. Mr. Chergis, why are you here? Keep your voice down. Chergis made a shushing gesture. It had to be said that this way of appearing gave off a strong sense of mystery. It would also make his clients more convinced of his identity. In fact, this was all prepared for him by the team behind him. Under the night sky, covering himself with a piece of black cloth, and then suddenly putting it away could easily create the illusion of a sudden appearance. Come with me. I'll take you in. This was a bank after all, even though Amira was not taking Chergis to the business office. Without her leading the way, Chergis would never be able to enter. Amira led Chergis into the bank and glanced at him. Which floor are we going to now? The 13th floor. In China, many buildings would avoid the 4th floor and directly remove it, especially in some residential areas. In foreign countries, most people avoided the 13th floor, and the way they did it was the same as in China. There's no 13th floor, Amira said. No, there is. I can feel it. It's hidden on the 13th floor. Amira frowned. Are you sure there's a 13th floor in this building? Or are you talking about the 14th floor? Yes, the 13th floor. Of course. Qiuji hadn't become so famous just by relying on his glib tongue. Every time he accepted a commission from a client, he and Chadwick would investigate the client. Take Amira, for example. They had investigated her beforehand. That was why they only accepted Amira's commission on the 3rd day. They knew what had happened in the building in the past month. They also knew the basic information of the building. Of course, the so-called basic information was not something that ordinary people would notice. For example, there were actually 13 floors in this building. However, the elevator did not reach them, because the 13th floor was designed as a water supply room. Let's go to the 12th floor first, Chergis said calmly. When they reached the 12th floor, Chergis tapped his forehead with his finger. It's close, I can feel it. This way. On the 12th floor, Churchill twisted and turned until he came to a closed door. Do you have a key? Churchill asked. No, I didn't even know there was a door here. Amelia was the general manager, and she was in charge of the entire building. How could she possibly care about the keys? What's more, most of the building was equipped with electronic locks. The business hall below had an even higher level of defense, and the vault below the business hall had a nuclear level of defense. It's okay. Chujias touched the lock and pulled it. The iron lock was unlocked. How did you do it? Amelia asked in surprise. Behind the door was a staircase. Amira did not know that there was such a staircase here, and it only went up, not down. When they arrived at the 13th floor, the entire floor was soaked wet. He could only vaguely hear the sound of water dripping. The lighting was also very dim, giving people a very uncomfortable feeling. Chergis suddenly waved his hand. Stop. Amira immediately stopped. Chergis said, I'm not talking to you. Didn't I tell you? All of a sudden, Chergis spilled a cloud of powder. The moment the powder came into contact with the air, it exploded. A woman's scream came from the originally quiet floor. Amira was startled, and her face turned pale. What's going on? What just happened? It's fine now, Chergi said indifferently. There was a woman's lingering resentment here. And I've completely eliminated it. Is it done? Yes, it's all done. There won't be any more problems. Chergi's looked confident. Thank you. I'll transfer the payment to you. Amira's body and mind immediately relaxed. It was finally done. Just as the two were about to leave the 13th floor, a cry came from behind them. Both Amira and Chergi's broke out in cold sweat. There's more? Amira turned her head stiffly to look at Chergi's. Chergi's turned back to look at the room. Beside the water tower in a dark place, there was a woman in white with her hair draped over her shoulders, huddled in a corner. The woman was the one who was crying. Chergi's gulped. Suddenly, the light in the water room dimmed. Then it lit up again. But at that moment, a horrifying face appeared in front of Amira and Chergi's. It was a bloodless face, but its eye sockets were empty and completely dark. Both Amira and Chergi screamed in fear. Eliminate her. As soon as Amira turned around, she saw Chergi sprinting towards the ground. Only then did Amira realize that Chergi's was not a spiritualist, nor did he know how to exorcise demons. Amira also ran out of the 13th floor and chased after Chergi's. You liar! Liar! Chergi's ran to the elevator on the 12th floor and pressed the button frantically. He was scared, really scared. The mission was no longer important. He just wanted to get out of here as fast as possible. The elevator door finally opened, and Chergi's and Amira rushed into the elevator. The door closed, and the elevator slowly descended. But at that moment, the lights in the elevator began to flicker. Creak, 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 scratch marks began to appear on the elevator door. It was as if someone had scratched the metal door with a sharp object. Both of them broke out in cold sweat. Amira cried out in fear. Think of something, think of something. There's a ghost, there's really a ghost, there's really a ghost. Chergi's had completely lost control. There's really a ghost, there's really a ghost. This was no longer part of his plan. Chergi's mind was in a mess. Chergi's had never been a daring person. In his past missions, even if they were all fake, he had never dared to enter those so-called haunted houses alone. Ding! The elevator door opened, and the two of them scrambled out of the elevator and rushed out of the bank. Suddenly, Amira tripped over something and looked back. Wasn't that the woman who had jumped off the building in front of them today? Hadn't her body been cleaned up a long time ago? Why was she still here? At this moment, the corpse began to crawl up slowly. Chapter 845. Amira was horrified. Church J.S. pulled Amira to his side. What are you waiting for? Run. As Amira was running, she did not forget to look back at the employee who had jumped off the building. The female employee was still swaying as she strolled in her direction. At that moment, Amira suddenly noticed that a car was heading toward her. Turning around, she saw that the one in the car was the evil ghost she had encountered on the 13th floor. The female ghost had a ferocious look on her face. She gripped the steering wheel, and a crazed expression appeared on her face. The car was traveling at least 150 kilometers per hour. If someone were to be hit at such a speed, they would definitely die. I'm dead. Church JIS felt his legs turning to jelly. 20 meters, 10 meters, 5 meters. At that moment, a fireball suddenly fell from the sky. Boom! The fireball landed on the hood of the car that the female ghost was driving. With a loud noise, the car rolled forward and flipped over Church JIS and Amira's heads. Church JIS and Amira's mouths were wide open, their faces filled with shock. A tall woman wielding a greatsword was standing in the same place. The female ghost rushed out from the car and pounced at the woman. The woman's fist suddenly burst into flames, and she punched the female ghost's head. In an instant, the female ghost's head was crushed and her spirit body began disintegrating. Shock was written all over Church JIS and Amira's faces. Are we saved? Amira looked at the woman, her eyes filled with stars. There is indeed something wrong with this building. Gaia looked at the headquarters of the bank before turning to look at Amira and Church JIS. Are you two alright? Don't walk around at a time like this, especially in an unsafe place like this. Madam, Amira stepped forward. I'm not married. Gaia's expression immediately turned ugly. It was very impolite to call an unmarried woman madam. Sorry. Children, let's go home. I am the general manager of this bank. Besides, I am not a child. Amira quickly stated her identity. Gaia ignored Amira and raised her head to look at the building before her. Suddenly Gaia moved. Like a ferocious tiger, Gaia charged toward the building. But at that moment, a gust of air formed by evil spirits gushed out from the entrance of the building. Like a torrent, it directly hit Gaia's body. Then, Gaia flew backward and hit the wall on the opposite side of the road. Amelia and Chujis were so scared that they almost peed their pants. Wasn't this place too scary? Originally, they thought that a savior had come, but in the end, they were sent flying by a single blow from the evil spirit. Flying so far away, that woman was dead for sure, right? At this time, Gaia stood up again and patted the dust off his body. Immediately after, flames appeared on Gaia's body along with the great sword in her hand. At this moment, Gaia was on the verge of exploding. Her fighting spirit, and state were all completely released after that blow. Gaia was like a cannonball, directly shooting towards the entrance of the building. Evil spirits surged out from the entrance of the building again, crashing into Gaia. But this time, Gaia was not sent flying. Gaia's flaming greatsword slashed down. Bang! The torrent of evil spirits was split apart by Gaia. Amira and Churchill covered their mouths, their eyes filled with disbelief. But Gaia did not last until the end. Her body was sent flying again. She landed in front of Amira and Churchill. Amira hurriedly helped Gaia up. Are you okay? I'm fine. Gaia twisted her neck and took out her phone. She realized that her phone was broken. Can I borrow your phone for a while? Of course. Amira quickly handed the phone to Gaia. Gaia made a call. Hello, Mr. West. I'm at the Los Angeles branch of Irvine Bank. There's a very powerful existence there that I can't handle. Gaia called for a minute and hung up. Thank you for calling. With that, Gaia turned to leave. Wait. Miss, what about the evil spirits in this building? I can't beat them, Gaia said. Then what? If I can't beat them, then I can't. What else do you want me to do? Gaia answered matter-of-factly. So you're not going to do anything? I'll gather my partners and come up with a battle plan, Gaia said. How do you want me to cooperate? Before the problem is solved, it's best not to worry about the inside. So our bank can't operate normally? You can choose to continue, but people will die one after another. How long will it take to solve it? Amira asked. I don't know. The thing inside is really scary. I'm not sure if my partners and I can kill it. What if you can't even handle it? It's okay. There's still a monster among us. We can wait for him to come back. Monster? What kind of monster? Just a monster. Stronger than you. Of course. I was almost brought out by him. Then why don't you let him fight? He's on vacation. We can't contact him for now. Also, he's our boss. Most of the time, we don't want him to fight unless it's a really tricky problem. Phew. We're finally home. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai both collapsed on the sofa. No matter how crazy they were outside, it was still more comfortable at home. Fei Lai, I'm sorry for yesterday. Chen Zhao pulled Fei Lai over. He had actually slapped her. Chen Zhao never thought that hitting his own woman was right. It was not allowed under any circumstances. Fei Lai leaned against his shoulder. Chen, you've said it many times since yesterday. But I still want to say I'm sorry. Fei Lai could feel that Chen Zhao had been blaming himself. More importantly, it wasn't the slap. He felt that he hadn't protected himself well enough. He felt that if he had protected himself better, perhaps he could have avoided the slap. I've never blamed you. I insisted on going to the island. Fei Lai leaned against Chen Zhao. Thank you for spoiling me. Just then Chen Zhao's phone rang. Hello, Mr. Chen. I'm Andrews. Hello, how can I help you? It's like this. I've done some research in Mountain Town. The land prices there have been rising rapidly in the past year. Although the land around your villa isn't high-quality farmland, the price of an acre is around $7,000. Chen Zhao nodded. What's the specific price? The complete land around you that doesn't involve other landlords is around 12 square kilometers. The government of Mountain Town wants to sell it. After all, it'll be a waste if you leave it there. But that means you'll have to pay close to $20 million. It's much higher than I thought, Chen Zhao said. 12 square kilometers was almost 3 times the land Chen Zhao currently owned. It was indeed big. Chapter 846. Mr. Chen, I'll try my best to lower the price, Andrews said. How much money can you help me save? Chen Zhao said. You can take 5% as your commission. He couldn't make a cow work and not give it grass. How much Andrews could lower the price would depend on his ability. As for how much the bank could lower the price, there were too many ways. Especially super banks like Citibank. For example, they could tell the local government that if they wanted to get a loan from their bank, they had to give them preferential treatment in certain transactions. This was their trump card. For a government like Mountain Town, that didn't have many resources or industries, they had to rely on bank loans. Many things needed to rely on bank loans. But if a company like Citibank gave the Mountain Town government a bad loan evaluation, then the Mountain Town government was likely to go bankrupt. So the government couldn't ignore Citibank's request. How much they could lower the price would depend on Citibank's ability. Yes, Mr. Chen. I'll try my best. Andrews's tone was still calm, but his heart was beating wildly. In a transaction worth tens of millions of dollars, a trader or accountant's biggest income was the commission. In most cases, a commission of 1% or 2% was already considered the maximum. But Chen Zhao gave him a 5% commission. He had to work hard. In many cases, an accountant like him would not make a profit for half a year. But when he did, he would make a living for half a year. When they got home, both Chen Zhao and Fei Lai were very tired. But Zhilin was as active as usual. She didn't know what fatigue was at all. Of course, this was also because she slept most of the time. After that she ate and played. Fei Lai went to sleep early. Chen Zhao was still holding the scroll and the metal container that contained it. What was Vanity's goal for giving him this? He couldn't get through to her. If Vanity wanted to harm him, it didn't seem meaningful. Back then, Vanity could kill Carlo with one shot under those circumstances. This meant that Vanity was an extremely calm person. She wouldn't be emotional. As for deep hatred, there was no such thing. So, Chen Zhao didn't believe that she'd give him a random thing and use it to harm him. Kamesa Island was a trap. It might be dangerous for normal people, but it didn't threaten him at all. Therefore, he could rule out the possibility of Vanity using this to harm him. In that case, she must have other motives for luring him to that island. Or did he miss out on some information? Chen Zhao wasn't sure. The next day, Chen Zhao and Fei Lai were exercising in the morning. Their routine was basically swimming. At this moment, a call came in. After receiving a notification from the butler system, Chen Zhao returned to the shore and picked up the call. It was Evely. They hadn't contacted each other for a long time. Chen, do you remember what you promised me? Did I promise you anything? Why don't I remember? Could it be that I've made a solemn vow to you before? You said that before the World Championship, you would help me train for 10 days. In the end, you stood me up. It seems that you didn't inform me in time. Do you know how busy I am? If you didn't take the initiative to remind me, how would I know if you wanted to train? So it's my fault. Clearly it's your fault, Chen Zhao replied. Then I want to train now. The World Championship is over. Why are you still training? I didn't break the men's world record. Are you planning to humiliate us men to the point where we have no face left? If you think that I humiliated you men, you can participate in the competition yourself. I think that with your ability, you can definitely make your men proud. Alright, I'm not that bored. Are you willing to help or not? What competition do you have next? In November, there's a World Championship Celebrity Invitational. I'm the world record holder now, so I'm also invited. I also plan to break the men's world record in the Celebrity Invitational. My girlfriend's pregnant. I don't have much time. 10 days, $2 million. Starting from today, are you in LA? Fuck. Evely cursed. Huh. You know that word. I've been learning Chinese recently. Okay, where are you now? I'm at the North Beach Natatorium. How come I don't know this place? Chen Zhao asked, confused. It's a high-end natatorium. I've been training here recently. I don't understand. What's the difference between a so-called high-end natatorium and a regular one? Don't you know that the difference in water quality has a lot to do with the swimmer's performance? Your performance didn't depend on the water quality, Chen Zhao said, unconcerned. Hurry and come over. Stop nagging. Fine. After hanging up, Chen Zhao said to Fei Lai, who was on the lake. Fei Lai, I'm going out to earn money. Fei Lai waved her hand, indicating that she heard. Chen Zhao drove and found the North Beach Natatorium according to the GPS. Not to mention the facilities inside, just the architectural style of the natatorium was enough to tell that it was expensive. As soon as Chen Zhao got out of the car, someone bumped his shoulder. Turning around, he saw that it was a high-ranking official from Citibank. His name seemed to be Amira. Seeing Chen Zhao, Amira was also stunned. Sorry, Amira didn't know Chen Zhao's name. He only knew that Chen Zhao was a client of their bank. Chen Zhao nodded, but after walking for a while, he realized that Amira seemed to be heading in the same direction as him. At the entrance of an indoor natatorium, Amira looked at Chen Zhao. Sir, you've been following me all the way. Chen Zhao was helpless. I'm also coming to this pool. Amira furrowed his brows. Sir, this swimming pool has already been booked, so your excuse is completely meaningless. Just then Evely poked her head out. Sister Amira, you're here. Chen, you're finally here. Amira was surprised. You know him? He's the coach I hired. Amira looked at Chen Zhao. You're a swimming coach? Temporary. Sorry, I misunderstood you just now. Amira apologized perfunctorily. Temporary swimming coach? She wanted to see how special Chen Zhao's temporary swimming coach was. Right now, almost all the swimming coaches in the country were lined up for Evely to choose. She was the world champion, the world record holder, and the first woman to swim the 800-meter freestyle for 8 minutes. With all these accolades, Amira was practically the Usain Bolt of the swimming world. Her condition had always been very stable. As long as she participated in a competition, she would always win. Chapter 847. Amira and Evely were in the changing room. Evely, are you sure that Asian can really be your coach? Of course. He's the most qualified person to be my coach. No one's better than him. Are you sure? Amira wasn't a swimmer, but she would occasionally hire some swimming coaches to train her, so she knew many famous coaches. Of course, Evely said. He charges 2 million for 10 days. What? Amira shrieked. How can he do that? Amira screamed. The price was higher than her salary as an executive in a bank. That was the equivalent of $200,000 per day. Even the best swimming coaches, if they did not take into account the income of their students, would have an annual salary of about this amount. 1 day was equivalent to the salary of other top coaches. Amira thought that Evely was crazy. I went through a lot of trouble to get this. Before the World Championship, I told him about it, but that bastard forgot about it. Evely, you don't rely on your results, but you shouldn't squander like that. Your pay is too high. It wasn't just high, it was unreasonable. I can't help it. If I pay too low, he won't come. He'd rather stay at home with his pregnant girlfriend. This was clearly a trick used by scammers to drive up the price. However, no matter what he said now, Evely probably wouldn't listen. From her tone just now, it was clear that she trusted that person a lot. Amira worked in a bank, so she only interacted with finance. She knew a lot of scammers' tricks very well. If a victim was in the process of being scammed, it would be very difficult to listen to persuasion. The best way now wasn't to persuade the victim, but to expose the scammer. The two walked out of the locker room. Amira saw Chen Zhao sitting on the bench beside them, paralyzed. He didn't have the attitude of a coach at all. Chen Zhao's expression was indifferent. He was even holding an apple in his hand. Chen, that's my food, Evely said. Oh, Chen Zhao shrugged. Go into the water and swim a few laps first. Hearing Chen Zhao's words, Amira felt that Chen Zhao was just randomly training Evely. Evely obediently swam into the water. In the past, she had been very resistant to Chen Zhao's training method. But ever since Chen Zhao helped her train and achieved super outstanding results, Chen Zhao's attitude had changed. She completely accepted Chen Zhao's training. Over the past 6 months, she had also come into contact with many coaches. No coach could have given her so much help. She already knew most of the things those coaches taught her. But Chen Zhao only knew how to train real training. Another thing was to control her diet. She had to eat whatever she ate during training. Amira sat beside Chen Zhao. Mr. Chen, you said that it's temporary. What's the main purpose? My main occupation is a doctor, and my side occupation is a spiritualist. Chen Zhao stared at Amira, his eyes wide. Even the world championships didn't have such a high prize. Amira sneered inwardly. You want 1 million? She didn't call an ordinary athlete. He'd once represented America in the Olympics and was a member of the main national team. Of course, as long as you can win. Sure. It won't be a problem even if you get Phelps, Chen Zhao said directly. Chen Zhao didn't want to be an athlete. It was too tiring. Chapter 848. Which distance are you good at? Amira asked. I'm good at everything. Even if you call a triathlete, I'll still win. Triathlons included swimming too. It was a super long distance one. 5 kilometers. Amira thought that Chen Zhao was being stubborn. Maybe he didn't think he could find a professional athlete. You mean any swimming event? You think you can beat anyone? Of course, Chen Zhao said nonchalantly. If you're willing to pay $1 million for every match, find as many people as you want and I'll compete in a few matches, Chen Zhao said nonchalantly. Sister Amira, don't compete with Chen, Evely hurriedly said. You can't beat him. If it was just $1 million, it would be fine if Chen Zhao won it. But if Amira really agreed to Chen Zhao's request, she probably wouldn't just win $1 million. Others might not know, but Evely knew Chen Zhao's ability very well. But when she said that, Amira was even more indignant. So you're saying that you can beat an entire swimming team if I bring them here? If I lose, it'll be my loss. Then what if you lose? If I lose, I'll also pay $1 million, Chen Zhao said. That's what you said. Amira sneered inwardly. I'll make you spit out all the money you cheated. Do you dare to be a witness? Sure, Chen Zhao said. As long as you're a witness, I'll be one. Freestyle breaststroke, butterfly backstroke and medley. Do you dare to accept all of them? Amira made up her mind. She had to make Chen Zhao go bankrupt. Since Chen Zhao dared to cheat her best friend, she had no reason to let him go. Sure, I don't mind making more money, Chen Zhao said calmly. As long as you can afford it, you can have as many races as you want. Are you sure you want to have so many races in a day? Amira asked. I'm very sure. Evely covered her face. Sister Amira, don't you want to reconsider? Evely, I brought someone from the national swimming team. They're training in Los Angeles recently. I can't think of any possibility that they'll lose. Amira looked at Chen Zhao. As long as he doesn't pee his pants. How about this? As long as it's a race of 200 meters or more, I'll give you at least 50 meters. Evely widened her eyes at Chen Zhao. She didn't expect him to be so arrogant. On the U.S. national swimming team, there were a few who held world records. You still want to give them at least 50 meters? Evely knew that Chen Zhao was very strong. No, very scary. She also knew that Chen Zhao had given in to others several times during the University of California sports. But at that time, they were all female students or second or third tier athletes. This was a completely different concept. You are now facing athletes from the national team, which is absolutely world class. What are the characteristics of a liar? That was unrealistic boasting. In order to boast about how strong he was, he started to boast unrealistically. Not to mention the number of consecutive races. Just giving 50 meters was a sign of ignorance in Amira's eyes. She wasn't an athlete, but she knew that 10 meters was a decisive distance when competing against world-class, or even national athletes. Giving 50 meters to a 200-meter race? Do you think you're Superman? That's what you said. Of course. Then if I find a notary, can I write it in the notarization too? Of course. With that, Amira went to make the call. Evely glanced at Chen Zhao. Are you confident? Sister Amira definitely won't find an ordinary person. She can easily pull them to the national team. Even if they're not in Los Angeles, She can still gather them in one day. Do you think I have a reason to reject someone who's giving me money? Don't lose all your money. Evely was still very concerned about Chen Zhao. If it was a regular race, she believed that Chen Zhao could win. But if he gave 50 meters to a 200-meter race, that would be too arrogant. In less than 20 minutes, the notary arrived. Chen Zhao even suspected that the notary had been prepared beforehand. Miss Amira, is there anything I can do for you? Amira glanced at Chen Zhao and then told him the whole story. The notary's face was filled with shock. He turned to Chen Zhao. Miss Amira, are you sure you didn't make a mistake? Of course. Why would I reject someone who wants to give me money? The notary looked at Chen Zhao. Sir, are you sure too? Or do you want to change some details? I don't think so. Disdain appeared in the notary's eyes. This Asian wanted to challenge the U.S. swimming team? And he wanted to give up points. Was he looking down on the U.S. national team? Actually, Evely was also on the U.S. national team. However, she didn't have much confidence in Chen Zhao now. After all, Chen Zhao's words were too confident, almost to the point of arrogance. The notary quickly drafted the VM agreement. Then please sign it. Since he was here, it meant that the VM was legally binding. Chen Zhao and Amira both signed their names. The notary also signed his name. The agreement was officially in effect. It didn't take long before the swimming team arrived. Uncle. Amira hugged the coach directly. Darling, did you say someone wants to challenge my kids? Amira pointed at Chen Zhao. That guy. Which event is he swimming in? He said he's all-rounder, and he can defeat the entire team alone. Young man, do you know what you're saying? Chen Zhao was sitting lazily on the bench eating some fruit. I know, I'm earning money. What do you mean? The coach was clearly confused. Amira moved to the coach's ear and whispered something. The coach looked at Chen Zhao. Kid, you're too arrogant. He'd already changed the way he addressed Chen Zhao from young man to kid. Clearly, he was already quite dissatisfied with Chen Zhao. 200 meters, or more than 200 meters, directly give up 50 meters. This was a complete insult to his team. I don't need you to do that, the coach said coldly. As long as you can beat any one of them, it's my loss. Although the coach said that, he didn't mean what he said. After all, Chen Zhao wasn't betting against him but Amira. Chapter 849. Okay, the coach said. Who's going to beat him first? A 2-meter tall guy walked out. I'll do it, coach. Rochelle, you're a 200-meter freestyle swimmer. Don't lose. I'm serious. If you lose to this Asian, I'll kick you out of the national team, no matter how good your past results are. Rochelle didn't have a world record, but he'd won almost all the championships. 4 years ago, he'd won the Olympic 200-meter freestyle gold medal, the World Championship, the Swimming World Cup champion, and all the championships for the national team. Rochelle was best at the 200-meter freestyle. He also had a good result in the 400-meter freestyle. Rochelle looked down at Chen Zhao. Asian, do you want me to give you a handicap of 50 meters? I don't mind, Chen Zhao replied, smiling. Rochelle, a competition is a competition. Even if it's not a formal competition, you have to be serious, the coach reminded. Come here, Asian, Rochelle called out provocatively. Let me teach you a lesson. Chen Zhao stood on the platform, chewing on the apple in one hand. Kid, you're going to die. You're still eating? Chen Zhao placed the apple beside the platform and looked at Evely, who was in charge of the starting pistol. Ready. Evely raised the pistol. Bang. As expected, Rochelle jumped in immediately. He was just saying that he would give Chen Zhao a handicap of 50 meters. He wanted to crush Chen Zhao with absolute strength. As promised, Chen Zhao stood on the platform. He didn't jump in until Rochelle turned around at the first 50 meters. That's a non-standard entry. The national coach looked disgusted. Chen Zhao surfaced at 15 meters. There was a rule for diving distance in formal competitions. It couldn't be more than 15 meters. So fast. Chen Zhao's speed finally exploded. Every time he swam, he'd move a long distance forward. Most of the people present were professional swimmers. They were very sensitive to speed. Even without a stopwatch, they could roughly estimate a person's speed in the water. Chen Zhao was very fast. He finished the first 50 meters in the blink of an eye. Did he use 20 seconds just now? Definitely. The world record is only 91 seconds. He can't break the world record. I feel like he didn't even use 20 seconds. My senses must be wrong. Evely held the stopwatch. She knew Chen Zhao's speed better than anyone else. Chen Zhao took 14.66 seconds for the first 50 meters. This meant that Chen Zhao had already broken the world record in the first segment. Before Rochelle could finish the second section, Chen Zhao had already passed him. Everyone's jaws dropped, and their faces were filled with shock. Evely's eyes were filled with shock. This was because Chen Zhao's speed in the second section was even faster than the first. Including the time he took to turn, he only took 14.61 seconds. What a terrifying speed. However, he slowed down in the third stretch of 50 meters. Chen Zhao wanted to win, not scare his opponent away. If he scared them away, there would be nothing left to play with. Seeing Chen Zhao slow down, Evely could not help but frown. What was going on? Usually, Chen Zhao wouldn't feel tired even if he swam a few kilometers. Why did he slow down so quickly this time? Was it because his stamina had deteriorated? At this moment, the coach shouted from the shore. Rochelle, hurry up. He's out of energy. He's using all his energy to explode. Chen Zhao swam very easily. Rochelle quickly caught up to him. Chen Zhao sped up again and opened up a few more meters. In the third stretch of 50 meters, Chen Zhao was leading by 10 meters. Disbelief appeared in Amira's eyes. She did not think that Chen Zhao could really swim so fast. No, it was ridiculously fast. In the next 50 meters, Chen Zhao maintained his lead. He did not give Rochelle any chance to overtake him, all the way to the finish line. Chen Zhao reached the shore first. Then, he sat on the diving platform and started eating an apple with his legs crossed. Ms. Amira, I've already won $1 million. Thank you for your patronage. Chen Zhao smiled brightly at Amira. It seems that's all the American team can do. Everyone looked like they had eaten a huge pill. Rochelle climbed onto the shore in a daze. Lost. He had actually lost. And it was in a situation where he had given a 50-meter advantage to his opponent. How was this possible? Did Chen Zhao have the ability to break the world record? Rochelle did not have a world record, but he had the ability to approach it. But now, Chen Zhao had given him a 50-meter advantage and still won. This is impossible. You must have taken a stimulant. Rochelle pointed at Chen Zhao, unwilling to give up. Chen Zhao's expression was indifferent. Apples are very nutritious. Eat a few more before the race. Evely, do you have more apples? Everyone was speechless. Chen Zhao took the second apple. Rochelle, back off. Don't embarrass yourself there. The coach's face was green. He had realized that Chen Zhao was really capable. If there really was a stimulant that could increase one's speed by 50 meters, it would have been used long ago. Next, who's coming to die? Chen Zhao glanced at the national team. Me. The second person was the 50-meter freestyle swimmer Ku Lun. Ku Lun was not very strong, but he felt that Chen Zhao should have used up all his strength. He should be very confident in finishing Chen Zhao now. How far did you swim? 50 meters. Oh, so you don't need to give me a chance. I don't need anyone to give me a chance. Okay, let's do it. Chen Zhao put down the apple and stretched on the platform. Get ready. Evely looked at Chen Zhao meaningfully. Bang! Chen Zhao and Ku Lun entered the water at the same time and exited at the same time. Chen Zhao was one body length ahead of Ku Lun. The coach's expression became more and more serious. Judging from the frequency at which they swung their hands, Ku Lun had already lost. Ku Lun was still affected by Chen Zhao's frequency. Chen Zhao did not give him a chance to surpass. As expected, Chen Zhao won the competition with an advantage of one body's length. Roar! I won again. Chen Zhao went ashore and panted. He walked around the lane, his chest heaving up and down. When he walked to Evely, she whispered with a dark expression, "You're pretending to be tired." Chen Zhao smiled. He would not admit it anyway. Chen Zhao turned to Amira and blew her a kiss. Honey, you've already lost $2 million to me, haha. Amira looked at Chen Zhao with murderous intent. Chapter 850. There was a mistake. An outdoor triathlon is 5 kilometers, not 15 kilometers. Amira could already tell that Chen Zhao was really capable. At least in swimming, he was really strong. No matter how much she didn't want to admit it, she had to accept this fact. After all, Chen Zhao had beaten 2 athletes from the national team. Plus, Chen Zhao wasn't a professional athlete. He was just an amateur coach. But he had actually beaten 2 professional athletes, and in 2 different swimming events. But now, she could also see that Chen Zhao's stamina was starting to run out. So competing with him in stamina was the best choice. Firstly, whether it was the 50m or 200-meter freestyle, he needed explosive power. After that, his stamina would definitely drop drastically. So, he might not have the stamina to finish the 5 kilometers in the triathlon. Also, even if he lost the triathlon, his stamina would drop to the limit. In the next race, he wouldn't have the stamina to fight anymore. This was also Amira's plan. Chen Zhao glanced at the other contestant. It was Kink. I'll give you a handicap of 300 meters. Kunk looked at Chen Zhao calmly. Thank you. After the race started, Chen Zhao really gave Kunk a handicap of 300 meters, which was 6 laps, before going into the water. Amira felt that Chen Zhao was probably trying to recover as much stamina as possible. So he purposely gave him a handicap of 300 meters. This time, Chen Zhao didn't use super speed to surpass Kunk. Instead, he accelerated at a constant speed. After a whole 20 laps, which was a kilometer, Chen Zhao finally surpassed Kunk. Then he maintained a 50-meter advantage. A race of 5 kilometers was too long. Chen Zhao used 16 minutes to finish the whole race. Chen Zhao climbed out of the water with a victorious smile. However, Evely's gaze was different. Because Chen Zhao had given Kunk a full handicap of 300 meters. Adding on the lead of 20 seconds, it was close to 3 minutes. If these 3 minutes were deducted, Chen Zhao would have broken another world record. By now, even the slowest person could feel that Chen Zhao's abilities were not to be underestimated. Not only was he fast, but his stamina was also monstrous. After competing in 3 completely different events, Chen Zhao won them all with an absolute advantage. That was enough to explain the problem. At this time, the national team coach no longer talked about kicking someone out of the national team. Because if he insisted on this idea, the men's national team would be disbanded today. Only Evely knew that Chen Zhao's stamina was much more than that. Chen Zhao looked at Amira provocatively. The warm-up is over. Who wants to die now? All the members of the national team stared at Chen Zhao angrily. Allow me. Cooper, the 100-meter breaststroke swimmer, stepped forward. Come on, he might only be good at freestyle. Use the breaststroke to show him what you've got. The coach patted Cooper on the shoulder. In less than a minute, Cooper failed. At this time, all the male members of the national team were shrouded in a shadow. Next come. The coach glanced at his team members. Everyone's eyes were avoiding his. Wayne, you go. Wayne was a male 800-meter freestyle swimmer. The only way to defeat this monster was to exhaust his stamina. Let's start with the physically demanding events. They dragged it out until the very end before sending out their strongest. However, Wayne's result was also a crushing defeat. Amira couldn't stand still anymore. Right now, she was making more money than anyone else. She'd lost another $1 million. Who could defeat this monster? Next was the men's 400-meter individual medley. He failed again. Everyone was in despair. No one could beat him. You're not on yet. What do you swim? Now Chen Zhao called out his name directly. 400-meter freestyle, Biederman answered. This farce ends here. The coach finally couldn't take it anymore. He felt that Amira was completely tricking him. Chen Zhao had already destroyed the confidence of all the male members of the team. Now all the men were physically and mentally exhausted. Even those who hadn't gone on stage could no longer fight. If they continued, even if the national team didn't disband, they wouldn't be able to recover in a short time. Everyone was covered in cuts and bruises. Only that man was still standing there with a calm look on his face. Coach Rodman stopped competing. He's a monster. Don't try to compete with him in any sports. He used the same method to destroy all the students in our school who specialized in sports. From high jump to long jump, from track and field to swimming, no one could beat him. Not even professional athletes could beat him, Evely said. Coach Rodman stopped competing. Everyone was dumbfounded by Evely's words. He won't get tired. His so-called tiredness is all an act. He likes to use this method to trick people and make them think that he's tired. He once swam 20 to 30 kilometers in the sea. Evely knew Chen Zhao too well. This shameless asterisk shoal always used this method to give people hope and then bring them despair. I don't believe he's good at any sports. He can't be good at fighting, right? I don't know his strength in other sports, but he once broke a boxing champion's arm with one punch. That boxing champion retired, so you can compete with him normally. Don't try to anger him. Everyone looked at Chen Zhao unnaturally. Chen Zhao was still sitting with his legs crossed, eating an apple. Are you still going to compete? I've already eaten 3 apples. Amira gritted her teeth and glared at Chen Zhao. You tricked me. You cheated my money. Chen Zhao lifted a finger and waved it. I've never cheated you. You were the one who suggested the competition. I never forced you. You were the one who suggested the notarization too. Oh, how many rounds did I win just now? Let me count. 50-meter freestyle, 100-meter freestyle, 200-meter freestyle. Chen Zhao counted with his fingers and then looked at Amira. I think there were only 9. Thank you for your patronage. That's $9 million in total. Amelia felt dizzy. She could afford $9 million, but she wasn't satisfied. Moreover, she'd lost $9 million in such a humiliating way. I'm so happy today. I met an idiot who had to give me $9 million for free. Chen Zhao looked at Coach Rodman. Sir, are your men really not going to compete? How about we discuss it? I'll give you $500,000 per round as compensation. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.